The wrong number that saved her life. She was bleeding on the bathroom floor, counting the seconds until the man she once loved kicked down the door to finish what he'd started. Her phone trembled in her hands. One message, one chance. She typed her mother's number through tears and a swollen eye and hit send without checking the digits. What she didn't know was that the text would never reach her mother. It would land in the hands of a stranger whose world ran on blood, power, and silence. A man who would burn down buildings for a woman he'd never met. If you stay with me until the very end of this story, you'll see how a single wrong number rewrote 2 lives forever. Do me one small favor before we begin. Hit that like button and drop the name of the city you're watching from in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now, let's begin. The first thing Lena Carter heard that Tuesday night was the sound of her own name being screamed from the kitchen. Lena. She froze in the hallway, one bare foot hovering above the hardwood, the grocery bag in her hand suddenly weighing 100 pounds. She had rehearsed this moment in her head 1,000 times on the drive home. She had checked the receipt 3 times in the car. Chicken breast, white rice, the cheap brand of tomato sauce because the rouse had been $6. And he noticed things like that. She had even remembered the mint gum because last week he'd told her that her breath smelled like coffee and it had made him sick. She had remembered everything, but she was 12 minutes late. Lena, I swear to God, if you don't get in here, I'm here. Her voice came out smaller than she meant it to. She cleared her throat and tried again, louder, steadier, the way her mother used to coach her for school plays when she was 8. I'm here, Derek. I'm home. She set the bag on the little entryway table they'd bought at IKEA 3 years ago, back when 3 years ago had felt like the beginning of something instead of the middle of something rotting. She slipped her purse off her shoulder. She placed her keys in the ceramic dish exactly where he liked them, every motion smooth, every motion quiet. She had become, over 22 months of living with Derek Malone, a woman who moved through her own apartment like a burglar. He was standing at the kitchen island when she walked in, a beer in one hand, his phone face down on the counter. His jaw was working the way it worked when he was chewing on something he hadn't decided to say yet, and Lena clocked that, the way you clock a dog's ears pinning back before it bites. Where were you? Publix. I told you this morning. I left a note on the Publix closes at 10. It's 9:40. It's 9:52, Lena. She looked at the microwave clock. It was 9:41. She didn't say that. Traffic was bad on Ponce, she said. There was an accident by the... Who were you with? Derek. Who were you with? Nobody. I was alone. I'm always alone. She set the grocery bag on the counter and started pulling things out, slowly, keeping her hands busy so he wouldn't see them shake. I got the chicken you like, the thin sliced kind, and I picked up that salsa, the one with the... Look at me. She looked at him. Derek Malone was 34 years old, and he had a face that women at bars still liked, even now, even after the drinking had started to soften the edges of his jaw and redden the tip of his nose. He had blue eyes the color of swimming pool tile and a smile that arrived 2 seconds too late. He worked in commercial real estate. He'd told her on their 3rd date that he was going to be worth $10 million by the time he was 40, and she had believed him, because back then she had been 24 and lonely, and her last boyfriend had cheated on her with a girl named Brittany who worked at a SoulCycle, and a man with a plan had sounded like heaven. That had been before the first time he grabbed her wrist hard enough to leave bruises. That had been before the night he threw her phone against the wall because a guy from her old job had liked one of her Instagram posts from 4 years ago. That had been before a lot of things. I called you, Derek said, 3 times. My phone was in my purse. I didn't hear it. I'm sorry, but... You're sorry. I'm sorry, Derek. You're always sorry. He drank from the beer. She watched his throat move. She watched the way his knuckles whitened around the bottle, and she took one small, unconscious step backward, and he saw her do it. And something in his face changed. Why are you stepping away from me? I'm not. You just stepped away. I didn't mean to. So now you're lying too. Derek, please, I just want to make dinner, okay? I'll make dinner. Sit down. Let me... He moved faster than she expected. He always did. 2 years and she still couldn't train her body to anticipate the speed of him. His hand closed around the back of her neck. Not hard, not yet. Just there, just a reminder. And he pulled her close enough that she could smell the beer and the Axe body wash he'd been using since college. I work all day. he said quietly. I work all day for this apartment, for your car, for the life you have, and you can't answer a phone call. I'm sorry. Say it again. I'm sorry. Look me in the eye and say it like you mean it. She looked him in the eye. His pupils were blown wide. He had been doing the Adderall again. She could always tell when he'd been doing the Adderall because his eyes went glassy and his jaw ground, and the apologies he gave her in the morning were longer and wetter than the ones he gave her when he was just drunk. I'm sorry, Derek. I love you. I won't do it again. He held her there a second longer. Then he let go. He turned around and walked back to the couch and turned the television up, and Lena stood at the kitchen counter with a bag of groceries and a neck that was going to have 4 small bruises on it by morning, and she started making dinner. This was a Tuesday. This was what a Tuesday looked like. She had stopped counting how many Tuesdays ago she should have left. Her best friend Marisol had asked her once, over coffee at a place on Piedmont where Derek couldn't see them, why she hadn't just gone. It's not that easy, Lena had said. It is that easy. You pack a bag. You drive to my house. I have a spare room. Lena, I have a spare room with a bed in it. He'd find me. He wouldn't find you. He would. You don't know him. Mari, he knows my mom's address. He knows where you live. He showed up at my work once because I didn't text him back for 45 minutes during a meeting. Okay, then we go to the police. And tell them what? He's never put me in the hospital. It's not like that. It's just, he gets angry. He's under a lot of stress. His dad died last year and he hasn't. Lena, don't. Lena, listen to me. Don't say it. This is going to kill you. Lena had looked down at her latte and she had watched the foam collapse on the surface, and she had said nothing because she had known, even then, sitting in a coffee shop in the middle of the afternoon, that Marisol was right. She had known it the way you know the weather is about to turn, the pressure in the air, the way the birds go quiet. She had known it, and she had gone home anyway. That was 6 weeks ago. Dinner was quiet. He ate. She picked at her food. He asked her about her day at the nonprofit where she worked as a grant writer, and she gave him the answers he wanted. Nothing interesting had happened. She hadn't talked to any men. Her boss had been fine. She had come straight home. And when she asked him about his day, he told her at length about a deal that was falling through because his idiot partner couldn't read a contract. And she nodded in all the right places. And she made the little sympathetic sounds. And when he finished, she said, I'm so sorry, baby. That's awful. Yeah, he said. It is. He got up. He left his plate on the table. She carried both plates to the sink and she started washing them. And she heard him go into the bedroom, and she heard the closet door open, and she felt the first small flicker of something wrong, something small, something the size of a splinter. Derek? She called. What? What are you doing? Looking for something. She turned the water off. She dried her hands on the dish towel. She walked toward the bedroom, slow, careful, and she stopped in the doorway, and she saw him standing at her side of the closet, and he was holding her old purse, the brown leather one she'd stopped using 6 months ago, the one she'd forgotten she'd ever owned. He was holding a piece of paper. He was reading it, and then he was looking up at her with an expression she had never, in 22 months, seen on his face before. Derek? What is this? What's what? He held the paper up. It was a business card, a little rectangle, cream-colored. With a name on it she couldn't read from across the room, but didn't need to read because she knew what it was. She knew exactly what it was. And her stomach dropped through the floor of the apartment and kept going. It was the card that the social worker at Grady Hospital had slipped into her hand 6 months ago after she had come in with a dislocated shoulder she had told the intake nurse was from falling down the stairs. The social worker hadn't believed her. Nobody had believed her. The social worker had leaned in close and had whispered, "When you're ready, you call this number. Anytime, day or night." Lena had kept the card. She had forgotten about the card. She had not thrown the card away. Derek, she said, that's not a domestic violence shelter. His voice was soft. That was the worst part. It was soft. A domestic violence shelter, Lena. I didn't. You've been keeping this. It's old. It's from. How long have you been keeping this? Derek, please, He moved. He moved fast, faster than the kitchen, faster than anything. And she had time for exactly one sound to leave her mouth, something halfway between his name and a word that wasn't a word, a vowel, a noise, before the back of his hand caught her across the face and her head snapped sideways, and her feet came out from under her and she went down hard, shoulder first, onto the edge of the dresser. The pain came a half second later. The pain came like an electrical current from her cheekbone all the way down into her jaw, and she heard very clearly the small wet sound of her own tooth cracking against the inside of her mouth. She tasted copper. She tasted copper, and she tasted the salt of her own tears, and then she heard him say, above her, his voice still soft, still that same terrible soft. Get up. Wonk. She didn't get up. She couldn't get up. She tried to push herself off the floor and her left arm folded under her, and she realized, through the fog of the pain, that her wrist wasn't working right. She had landed on it. Something inside it had gone wrong. Lena, get up! I can't. Get up! He grabbed her by the hair. He grabbed her by the hair, and he pulled her up onto her knees, and her scalp lit up with a line of fire, and she made a sound she had never made before, a sound she had not known her body could make, a thin, high, keening sound like an animal caught in a trap. And he was shaking her, and he was screaming at her now. No more soft voice, no more anything, just volume, just rage. And she could not understand what he was saying because the words were coming too fast, and her ear on the left side was ringing like a struck bell. Lying to me for 6 months. Think I don't know. Planning to leave me? Huh? Huh? You planning to leave me, Lena? No. After everything I've done for you? No, Derek, please, look at me. She looked at him. Through one eye, because the other one was already swelling, through a face that was already not her face anymore, through a veil of hair that he was still holding in his fist. And she saw in his eyes something she had only seen once before, the night he'd thrown her phone against the wall, the night she should have left. She saw that he was going to kill her. Not metaphorically, actually. Tonight. In this apartment. But he let go of her hair. He stepped back. He was breathing hard. He looked at his hand like he didn't recognize it. He looked at her like he didn't recognize her. And for a single insane second, Lena thought, she actually thought, with the stupid animal hope that had kept her alive for 22 months, he's going to apologize. He's going to cry. He's going to tell me he's sorry. He didn't mean it. He'll get help. And I'll say okay. And tomorrow I'll pretend tonight didn't happen and will. Then he turned around and walked out of the bedroom. Then she heard the kitchen drawer open. Then she heard the sound of silverware being pushed aside. Then she heard the sound of one particular drawer being opened, the drawer by the refrigerator, the drawer where they kept the big knives. Lena Carter moved. She did not think. She did not plan. Her body simply got itself off the floor and stumbled across the bedroom and into the bathroom, and she slammed the door, and she turned the lock, and she sat down with her back against the door because her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. And she heard, from the kitchen, Derek start to laugh. It was a small laugh, almost kind, almost amused. Lena, he called in a sing-song. Lena, baby, open the door. She didn't answer. Lena, don't be dramatic. Come out here and talk to me. She didn't answer. Lena. The first blow hit the door so hard that a picture fell off the wall behind her, a framed photograph of her and Derek at Amelia Island on the one good weekend they'd ever had, and the glass cracked, and Lena flinched so hard she bit her tongue. Her phone. Her phone was in her pocket. She had it. She still had it. She pulled it out with a hand that was shaking so violently, she dropped it once, and she caught it against her thigh. And she unlocked it, and her fingers were slick with blood from her split lip, and the screen wouldn't read her thumbprint. And she typed in the passcode, and she opened her messages, and she went to her mother's thread. And she typed, Mom, 911. Derek is trying to kill me. Apartment. Send police. Please, please, Mom, please. She did not look at the number. She had done this 1,000 times before, messaged her mother. From this phone. She knew her mother was at the top of the thread. Her mother was always at the top of the thread. She did not see that at some point, possibly when Derek had been going through her phone last Sunday, possibly earlier, her mother's contact had been edited, a single digit, one number, a 7 where there should have been a 1. She did not see that her mother's name had been kept the same. She did not see that the number underneath it had been changed. She hit send. The message whooshed, and somewhere in a penthouse in downtown Atlanta, 41 floors above Peachtree Street, a phone on a marble desk lit up with a message from a name that its owner did not recognize. Matt. The owner of the phone was, at that moment, not looking at it. He was looking at a man named Anton Vescovi, who was sitting across from him in a leather chair, sweating through a $2,000 suit and trying very hard not to show how badly his hands were shaking. "Nikolai," Anton was saying, "Nikolai, please. I can get you the money. I just need 36 days. "What?" 36 days, said Nikolai Soren. "That is how long ago we had this same conversation. In this same room. In this same chair. Do you remember what I said to you, Anton? You said, I said, I am a patient man. But patience is a finite resource. Do you remember that, Anton?" "Yes." "Good." Nikolai Soren was 41 years old. He was tall, and he was lean. The way long-distance runners are lean, and his hair was black and cut short and beginning, at the temples, to gray. He wore a charcoal suit that had been cut for him by a tailor in Milan. He did not smoke, he did not raise his voice, and in 23 years of doing the work he did, he had only ever killed 3 men with his own hands, because he had learned very early that it was more efficient to have other people do it for you. He had been born Nikolai Ilyich Sorensky in a town outside of Minsk, but nobody had called him that since he was 19. He ran an operation that moved money and information, and occasionally people, across 6 countries, through 31 shell companies, and out of a legitimate private equity firm that occupied the top 4 floors of a glass tower on Peachtree Street. He had not, in 23 years, ever been arrested. He had not, in 23 years, ever been afraid. He sat behind his desk and he watched Anton Vescovi sweat, and he thought about how long it had been since he had felt anything. Not fear, not joy, not sadness, not anything. He thought about this often, lately. He thought about it at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling of his bedroom. He thought about it during dinners with women whose names he forgot the next day. He thought about it in meetings like this one, watching a grown man tremble, and feeling nothing at all except a vague, clinical interest in how long it would take Anton to start crying. His phone lit up. He glanced at it. It was a message from a name he did not recognize. He did not keep his mother's number in this phone. His mother had been dead for 16 years. He did not have a contact called Mom in any phone, in any country, anywhere. The message was visible in the preview. Mom. 911. Derek is trying to kill me. Apartment. Send police. Please. Please, Mom, please. Nikolai Soren looked at the message. He looked at it for what Anton Vescovi, across the desk, would later remember as the longest 3 seconds of his life. And then Nikolai picked up the phone. Dima. The man standing by the door, a mountain of a man, 6'5", in a black suit that he wore like an apology, straightened. "Yes, boss. Get Victor. Get the car. Get 4 men. Now? Now." "Anton?" Nikolai looked at Anton Vescovi. Anton had stopped breathing. "Anton has another week," Nikolai said. "Get out." Anton got out. Anton got out so fast his chair hit the wall behind him. Nikolai was already moving. He was already crossing the office. He was tapping the screen of his phone, and he was pulling up the number, and he was calling it, and it rang once, twice, 3 times, and it went to voicemail. "Hi, you've reached Lena. Leave me a message." And he ended the call, and he hit the text thread, and he typed fast, with thumbs that had not typed a text this fast in his entire life. "This is not your mother. I'm going to send help. Where are you? Address. Send." He was in the elevator before the message went through. He was in the underground garage before the reply came back. The reply came in pieces. Broken, terrified, between shaking hands and slamming doors. "Help, who is this? 2847. North Highland Avenue apartment 314, hurry please. He has a knife please." Nikolai Soren had not prayed in 35 years. He did not pray now. But something inside him, something he had assumed was dead, lit up like a struck match, and he said, out loud, to no one, in the language of his childhood, a single word. Then he got in the car. The car was a black Mercedes. It could go from 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds. Dima was driving. Victor was in the passenger seat. 3 more men were in a second car behind them. They had been 4 blocks away from the garage when Nikolai had told Dima to turn the sirens on. And Dima had said, "Boss, this is not a police car." And Nikolai had said, "Drive like it is." And Dima had done it. Nikolai sat in the back. He stared at his phone. He was watching the little ellipsis that meant she was typing, and then disappearing, and then reappearing again. He was watching it the way a man watches a heart rate monitor. Please, he's breaking the door. And then nothing. And then nothing for 40 seconds that felt like 40 years. "How far?" Nikolai said. 4 minutes, Dima said. "Make it 2. Boss, just 2, Dima." Dima made it 2. What? Inside apartment 314 on North Highland Avenue, in a building that had been a warehouse in 1923 and a loft conversion in 2004, Lena Carter was sitting with her back against a bathroom door that was coming apart. Derek had been at the door for 6 minutes. She knew it was 6 minutes because she had been counting. Counting was the only thing keeping her from passing out. Counting and the small, strange fact that a stranger, some stranger, had told her help was coming. She did not know who the stranger was. She did not know if he was real. She did not know if she had imagined the whole thing the way she sometimes imagined, at the worst moments, that her mother was in the room with her, that her dead grandmother was in the room with her, that someone, anyone, was in the room with her. 1312. 1313. The door cracked. A long splintered line ran from the handle to the top of the frame. She could see him through it now. She could see one blue eye, one blown pupil, and a sliver of mouth. "Lena," he said. He said it almost kindly. "Lena, open the door. We can talk about this. I didn't mean it, baby. You know I didn't mean it. I just got scared, okay? I got scared. I thought you were going to leave me, and Derek, open the door. Derek, please, just wait. Just wait. Please. Open the door, Lena. Please." He hit the door again. The crack widened. She could see his whole face now. She could see the knife in his hand. It was the chef's knife, the big one. The one she had used to cut onions for him last Sunday while he'd sat at the counter and told her she was the best thing that ever happened to him. "I'm going to count to 3, Derek said. She closed her eyes. 1, please, please, please. 2. She thought about her mother. She thought about Marisol. She thought about the children at the community center where she volunteered on Saturdays, the little girl named Amara with the 2 missing front teeth who always ran to hug her first. She thought about the fact that she was 26 years old and she had not yet done a single thing with her life that mattered. And she was about to die in a bathroom in a Tuesday, and she was so sorry. 3. The door exploded inward. Lena screamed, but Derek was not in the doorway. Derek was on the floor of the bedroom, face down, with a man the size of a refrigerator kneeling on his back and a knee in his spine and one enormous hand pressing his cheek into the carpet hard enough to leave a mark. The chef's knife was on the floor 6 feet away. There were men in the apartment. There were 4, 5, 6 men in the apartment, in dark suits, moving through the rooms with the calm, efficient violence of a hurricane that had already made up its mind about what it was going to do. And then, through all of them, one man walked toward her. He was not running. He did not need to run. The room bent itself around him the way rooms do around certain men. He was tall. He was dressed in charcoal. His face was the most calm face Lena had ever seen on a human being, and his eyes, when they found her, were the gray of a sky just before a storm breaks. He crouched in the doorway of the bathroom. He did not touch her. He did not reach for her. He looked at her face and her eye and her wrist and her split lip and her bleeding scalp, and he did something with his jaw, a small muscle working once, and then he was calm again. "Lena Carter?" he said. His voice was very soft. She could not answer. She nodded. "My name is Nikolai," he said. "You sent me a text message, by mistake." She made a sound, half a laugh, half a sob, all of it a little unhinged. I'm sorry," she heard herself say, absurdly, through the blood in her mouth. "I'm sorry. I dialed wrong. I didn't mean to. Lena, I was trying to text my mom. Lena, listen to me. She listened. You did not do anything wrong, he said. Do you understand me? You dialed the right number. Whatever number you dialed the right number. Can you stand? I don't think so. My wrist, may I pick you up? She looked at him. She looked at this stranger, this man with storm-colored eyes, and a voice like something she had not heard in a very long time. A voice like someone who had come for her, who had actually, finally, after 1,000 Tuesdays, come for her. Yes, she whispered. He picked her up. He picked her up like she weighed nothing. He picked her up with his arms under her knees and her shoulders, and he held her against his chest, and she could smell the faint, clean scent of his aftershave, and something else, something warmer. And she pressed her face into the shoulder of his suit, and she did something she had not done in 22 months. She let go. She cried. She cried the way you cry when you have been holding it in for 2 years and someone has at last told you that you are safe. She cried into the shoulder of a man whose name she did not know, whose life she did not know, whose reasons she did not know. And she felt him walk through the apartment with her, and she felt him step over Derek Malone without looking down. And she heard him say, in a voice that had gone from soft to something else entirely, something that made the men in the room straighten, Dima, keep him alive. I have questions for him later. And then they were in the hallway, and then they were in an elevator, and then they were in a car that smelled like leather, and she was lying across the back seat with her head in the lap of a stranger, who was very gently, with fingers that did not tremble, pushing her hair back from her forehead. Close your eyes, he said. You are safe now. I don't know you, she whispered. No, he said. You do not. Why did you come? He was quiet for a long time. The car moved through the night. Atlanta slid past the window in ribbons of light. Because you asked, he said finally, and no one has ever asked me for anything like that before. She closed her eyes. She kept them closed for a long time. And somewhere in the dark behind her eyelids, a woman she did not yet know she was beginning to stop being whispered, He can't find you here. He can't find you here. He can't find you here. And for the first time in 22 months, something in Lena Carter believed it. She woke up in a white room. That was the first thing. The white. Not the sterile fluorescent white of a hospital, not the yellowing white of her old apartment ceiling, but something softer, warmer, a white that had been chosen by someone who thought about white. Linen curtains moved a little in front of a window, somewhere on her left. A ceiling fan turned so slowly she almost couldn't hear it. There was the smell of something, lavender maybe, and underneath that something else. The clean, neutral smell of a room that had never been lived in. For a long time, Lena Carter did not move. She lay very still under a weight of soft blankets, and she tried to remember how to be a person. Her body was doing an inventory without asking her permission. Her left wrist was wrapped in something white and tight and throbbed with its own heartbeat. Her face hurt. Specifically, her left cheekbone and the soft meat of her lower lip. There was a small, crisp feeling in her mouth where a back molar had cracked. Her scalp ached in 3 separate places, the way it aches after you've had your hair pulled hard enough to loosen follicles. Her ribs, when she breathed too deep, reminded her that she had gone down on a dresser the night before. The night before. The words tried to hook themselves to something and slid off. She turned her head, slowly, because the room moved when she moved, and she did not have the energy to argue with it. It was a bedroom, a very large bedroom. The bed she was lying in was enormous, covered in a pale gray duvet and about 6 pillows that smelled faintly like they had been laundered with something expensive. The walls were a soft pearl color. A pair of armchairs sat near the window, arranged around a low table. There were no photographs. There was no television. There was nothing in the room that told her anything about the person it belonged to. She sat up. The room spun. She waited for it to stop. She swung her legs over the edge of the bed and put her bare feet on the floor and discovered that the floor was warm. Heated. Heated floors, she thought, stupidly, and then she almost laughed because she was sitting on the edge of a stranger's bed in a stranger's apartment with a bandaged wrist and a bruised face, and the first thing her brain had decided to notice was the floor. She was wearing someone else's clothes, a soft gray t-shirt, far too big for her, and a pair of drawstring pants that she had rolled at the waist and cuffed at the ankles at some point during the night, probably, although she did not remember doing it. The t-shirt smelled like nothing in particular, which somehow was worse than if it had smelled like him. Him. Nikolai. She closed her eyes. It came back to her in pieces. The way it comes back after a bad dream, except the dream had been real. The bathroom door, Derek's voice. The countdown. 3. The explosion of wood. And then a man. And then a man walking toward her with eyes the color of a storm and a voice so soft it could have been someone's father. You did not do anything wrong. A car. A long ride. A hand in her hair. Not pulling. Not gripping. Just there. You are safe now. She opened her eyes. She was alone. Okay, she whispered to the empty room. Okay. She stood up. Her legs did not betray her, which surprised her. She made it to the window. The linen curtain moved aside under her hand, and she found herself looking out at a city she recognized and did not recognize at the same time. She was high up, very high up. She could see the top of the Bank of America tower from here, which meant she was somewhere near Midtown, somewhere she had never been able to afford to stand. Below her, 40 or 50 stories below her, traffic moved along a street she could not quite place. Morning light was doing something to the glass of a building across the way. She watched a pigeon wheel past the window, and it felt, briefly, like a sign. A soft knock at the door. She froze. Miss Carter? A woman's voice. Older, kind, accented in a way she couldn't place. Miss Carter, it's Elena. I brought breakfast. May I come in? Lena opened her mouth, closed it. Her voice, when she found it, came out in a scrape. Yes. The door opened and a small gray-haired woman came in carrying a tray. She was maybe 60, maybe 65, in a simple navy dress and sensible shoes, with a face that had been pretty once and was now something better than pretty, kind, creased, lived in. She smiled when she saw Lena, and the smile did not have anything behind it, no judgment, no curiosity, nothing. She had been here before. She had walked this tray into this room for other people. Lena did not want to know that, but she knew it. Good morning, honey, Elena said. I thought you'd sleep later. Come, sit. I made soft things for you. Your face. She set the tray on the low table between the armchairs. Yogurt, berries cut small, a glass of orange juice, a bowl of what looked like oatmeal, a little ramekin of honey, a pot of tea. Elena had thought about the broken tooth. Lena did not know why that almost made her cry. Where am I? Lena said. You are in Mr. Soren's apartment. Where is he? He went out, very early. He said to tell you he will be back this afternoon, and to tell you that you are his guest, and that you should ask me for anything you need. I don't understand. Elena's smile did not change. She gestured at the armchair. Eat, honey. Then we can talk. Eat while it is warm. Lena sat. She did not know why she sat. She picked up the spoon because Elena was watching her, and she did not know how to say, I don't think I can eat. I don't think I remember how to eat. I don't think my hands work. She put the spoon in the oatmeal. She lifted a small bite. She put it in her mouth on the right side, away from the broken tooth. It was warm, and it was sweet, and she realized, without meaning to, that she had not eaten anything since a granola bar at her desk at 1 p.m. yesterday. She ate the whole bowl. She ate the berries. She drank the tea. Elena sat in the other armchair with her hands folded in her lap, not watching, not watching. And when Lena was done, she took the tray and she said, There is a bathroom through that door, robe on the hook. Everything you need is in there. Take your time. When you are ready, come out. The living room is down the hall to the left. I will be in the kitchen. Elena. Yes, honey. Who is he? The old woman looked at her. Not coldly, not unkindly, but with the practiced patience of someone who had been asked this question by frightened women before and had developed over many years a particular way of answering it. He is a man who, when he decides something, it is decided, Elena said. He decided last night that you were going to be safe. So you are safe. That's not an answer. No, it isn't. Is he dangerous? Elena smiled then, and for the first time the smile had something in it, a flicker of something that was almost amusement and almost sadness. Honey, she said, every man is dangerous. The only question is to who. And then she picked up the tray, and she left the room. Lena sat in the armchair for a long time after Elena had gone. She watched the ceiling fan. She listened to her own breath. She moved her wrist a little and winced, and she thought about the way her mother, when she'd been small and sick, used to sit on the edge of her bed and hum, and she thought about how long it had been since anyone had brought her a tray of food that she had not had to thank a man for. And she cried for a while, quietly, without making any noise, because she had learned, a long time ago, how to cry without making any noise. Then she stood up, and she went into the bathroom, and she looked at herself in the mirror. She was not prepared. Her left eye was swollen half shut, the skin around it the color of a ripe plum. Her bottom lip had a cut in the middle of it, stitched, professionally, by someone who had been there when she was not conscious. Her cheekbone on the left side was the size of a small egg. There were 4 small dark bruises on her neck. Her hair, where Derek had yanked it, had a patch on the left side of her scalp where she had bled. Someone had cleaned the blood away. Someone had put a small bandage over the worst of it. She looked at her own face in the mirror and she did not recognize it. And then she did recognize it, and then she wished she hadn't, because the woman looking back at her was a woman she had told herself for 22 months that she was not. The woman in the mirror was a woman who lived with a man who hit her. Had lived. Past tense. Lena put her hands on the counter and she lowered her forehead to the cool marble, and she stood there like that for 5 full minutes. When she came out of the bathroom, clean, dressed in the soft clothes that had been folded on a chair for her, jeans in her size, a cotton sweater, underwear still in its store packaging, she walked down the hall to the left, and she stopped in the doorway of a living room the size of her old apartment. The windows were floor to ceiling. The city, from this angle, looked like something that had been arranged for her benefit. There were 2 leather couches, the color of a good cup of coffee, and a low bookshelf full of books in 3 languages that Lena could see from the doorway, and a fireplace that had not been lit, and a grand piano, and nothing else. No photographs, no decorative objects, no clutter. And in the middle of the room, a man she had never spoken to in sunlight. He was standing by the window with his back to her. He was wearing a dark blue shirt and gray slacks. His hair was damp. He had just gotten out of a shower, or he had come in from the rain, except it was not raining. He had his hands in his pockets. He was looking out at the city like a man who knew the city and had not in a very long time been surprised by it. "Good morning, Miss Carter," he said, without turning around. "You—" Her voice cracked. She tried again. "You said you'd be gone until the afternoon." "Elena told you that. I asked her to." He turned around. "I thought you would want to wake up without a strange man in the house. I came back when she texted me that you had gotten out of bed." "Oh. Please," he said, and gestured to the couch. "Sit. You should not stand for long today." She sat. He sat across from her, not too close, not too far, the distance of someone who knew how to be in a room with a woman who had been hurt. He folded his hands in his lap. He did not ask her how she was. He did not ask her if she was okay, which was the question she had all night been bracing for and dreading. Instead, he said, "Your wrist is not broken. It is a bad sprain. The doctor came last night. He put 3 stitches in your lip and 2 in your scalp. The cracked tooth we will need to see a dentist about this week, if you will allow it. He says there is some bruising of your ribs, but nothing broken. Your eye will look worse before it looks better. That is normal." She stared at him. "A doctor came here." "Yes." "To the apartment?" "Yes." "At what time was this?" "Around 1 in the morning." She tried to say something and no words came out. "Lena." He said her name like he had been practicing it. "I need to tell you a few things, and I need you to tell me if you understand them, because I do not want to lie to you. Not today and not later." "May I?" She nodded. "You're in my apartment. You're on the 43rd floor of a building in Midtown Atlanta. There are 2 men outside the door of this apartment at all times. There is security on the ground floor. The address of this building is not public, and there is no way for anyone to know you are here who I have not told. You are safe. That is the first thing." She nodded again. "The second thing, the man from your apartment last night, Derek Malone. He is alive. He is somewhere. Where he is not something you need to think about right now. He is not in the hospital and he is not in jail. He cannot come near you and he cannot find you and he will not try because he has been told not to by people he is going to listen to. I do not want you to worry about him. I will handle him. Do you understand me?" Lena said slowly, "When you say handle, I am not going to kill him," Nikolai said. "I want to be clear about that with you. I thought about it. I will be honest. I thought about it for most of the drive to your apartment last night, but I'm not going to. I did not want to do anything with his life that you did not choose for me to do with it. She stared at him. I don't even know what that means. It means he is your problem to decide about, Nikolai said. Not mine. If you want him to go to prison, we can make sure he goes to prison. If you want him out of the country, we can make that happen. If you want him to disappear in a way you never have to think about again, we can do that, and I will not tell you the details. But that decision is yours. Not today, not this week, whenever you are ready. Until then, he is somewhere very uncomfortable, and he is not going anywhere. Lena opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Who are you? She whispered. He looked at her for a long moment. His eyes had a lot in them. They were not kind eyes, exactly. They were not cruel eyes either. They were the eyes of someone who had done things and decided a long time ago that he was going to stop being surprised by any of them. My name is Nikolai Soren, he said. I run a private equity firm called Soren Holdings. That is a true thing, and it is how I make my money. I also do other things. Those things are not legal in any country I do them in. I move money. I move information. Sometimes I move people when the people are worth moving. I own parts of businesses in Atlanta, in Miami, in Chicago, in 3 cities in Europe. I have enemies. Some of them would very much like to know that you are here because they would use you, and that is one of the reasons the address of this building is not public. He paused. I am not a good man, Miss Carter. I want you to hear that from my mouth in daylight while you are still able to ask me to take you somewhere else. I will take you anywhere you want to go. Your mother's house, a hotel, the airport, a shelter. I will put you on a plane and pay for a year of whatever life you want, and you will never have to see me again. That is an offer I am making to you right now. You can say yes to it. You should say yes to it. She stared at him. Why are you telling me all this? Because you sent that message to the wrong number, he said quietly. And you do not owe the wrong number anything. Not your safety, not your trust, not your time. And I did not want you to wake up in a strange bed and find out later who had put you in it. That is not how I want to begin with you. Begin with you? She heard the phrase. She did not let herself hear it. My mother, she said after a while. Does my mother know where I am? No. She's going to be... I had one of my people drive past her house at 4:30 this morning. The lights in her kitchen came on at 6. She does not know anything is wrong. Your phone is in the other room. It is charged. You can call her whenever you would like. If you want me to leave while you do, I will. She'll want to see me. I assume she would. If you tell me where you would like to meet her, I will make it safe. Or I will bring her here, if you prefer. Here. Here. Lena was quiet for a long time. She was aware, distantly, that this was a moment. That the shape of the next year of her life, or the next 5 years, or the rest of her life, was being decided right now, in this room, in this silence, in the soft hum of the ceiling fan and the distant sound of traffic. She was aware that she could say, "Take me to my mother's," and he would do it. She was aware that she could say, "Take me to the airport," and he would do that too. She was aware that there was a version of the next hour where she walked out of this apartment and never heard the name Nikolai Soren again. She was aware she did not do it. Some things you know about yourself only in retrospect, and some things you know about yourself the second they happen. Lena Carter looked at the man across the coffee table from her, and she knew, without any way of proving it, that he was telling her the truth. All of it. The ugly parts and the less ugly parts. She knew he was a man who had probably killed people. She knew he was a man whose life was not a life she understood. She knew that every instinct she had spent her whole life sharpening against men was pinging against him, confused, because he did not fit. And she knew, underneath all of that, the thing that was actually making her stay. He had asked her what she wanted. No one had asked Lena Carter what she wanted in a very, very long time. I'd like to stay here, she said, for a few days, if that's still okay. Of course. And I'd like to call my mom. Of course. And I'd like... She stopped. She tried again. I'd like to know. About Derek. When it's decided. Whatever I decide. I want to know what happens. You will. Okay. Okay. She exhaled, The exhale shook. She realized she had been holding every muscle in her body tight as a fist since she had sat down, and she loosened 1 inch at a time into the leather of the couch, and she closed her eyes for a second and she heard him say, very quietly, almost to himself, "Good." Her mother came at 2. Nikolai had sent a car for her. The driver had not told her anything except that her daughter was safe, that her daughter was at a private residence in Midtown, and that he had instructions to drive her there. Lena had spoken to her on the phone first, in the bedroom, alone, because Nikolai had closed the door when he'd handed her the phone, and she had heard herself say, "I'm okay, Mom. I'm okay. I promise. I'm okay." And she had heard her mother do something on the other end of the line that was not crying exactly, a noise lower than crying, older than crying, a noise Lena had not heard her mother make since her father had died. Now her mother was in the living room, and her mother was holding her face in both hands, and her mother was looking at her eye, at her lip, at her wrist, and her mother was saying over and over, "Mija, mija, mija, hey." Her mother was named Rosa Carter, and she was 5 feet 2 inches of South Georgia muscle and Cuban stubbornness, and she had raised 2 daughters on her own after her husband had died of a heart attack at 41, and she had not in 62 years been afraid of anything except the possibility that her girls would end up with the wrong men. She had told Lena 3 times that Derek Malone was the wrong man. Lena had stopped answering her mother's calls for 4 months, the second year she had been with him, because she could not bear to hear her mother not say, "I told you so," which was worse than if her mother had said it. "I'm okay, Mama." "You are not okay." "I'm going to be okay." "Mija, I'm sorry." Don't you say sorry to me, don't you?" Rosa's voice cracked. She put her forehead against Lena's forehead. "You don't say sorry to me. You hear me. I am sorry. I should have come and gotten you. I should have—" "Mama, I knew, and I didn't—" "Mama, stop." They sat on the couch and they held each other for a long time. Nikolai was not in the room. He had excused himself when Rosa had walked in, with a small nod that Rosa had missed, and Lena had not. "I will give you time." After a while, when her mother had gotten some of it out, Rosa pulled back and wiped her face with the back of her wrist and looked around the apartment. "Whose house is this, Lena?" "His." "Whose?" "Nikolai. The man I told you about on the phone. The one who came. The one who got the text." "Yes." Rosa looked at her. Rosa was a woman who had spent 40 years working at a bank in Decatur, and she had developed, over those 40 years, a specific face for looking at men with money, a face that assumed nothing and forgave nothing. She turned that face now toward the apartment, the piano, the view, the quiet. "And what does he want, Lena?" What does he want?" "I don't know, Mama. I don't know yet. I don't think he wants anything." "A man like this?" Rosa gestured, small, at the room. "A man with a home like this does not send cars for a woman he has never met because he wants nothing." "Mama, I am not fighting you. I am not going to fight you. I am asking you to be careful, Mija. That is all I am asking." "I know. Because you have just come out of a house where you were not careful enough. And I don't want to lose you to a better-dressed version of the same thing." Lena was quiet. "He asked me what I wanted, Mama." Rosa looked at her. "When I woke up, he sat across the room from me and he told me I could leave. He said he would put me on a plane anywhere. He said it was my choice. He said—" Her voice wobbled. "He said the choice about Derek was mine too. He said he wasn't going to do anything I didn't want him to do. He asked me, Mama. He asked me." Rosa's face softened a little. Not all the way. Just a little. "Derek used to ask me what I wanted," Rosa said quietly. "The first 6 months. I know. Men like that, they learn how to ask. They know it is the way in." "I know, Mama." "Do you?" "Yes." Rosa looked at her for a long moment. Then she pulled Lena's head onto her shoulder, and she stroked her hair, very lightly, avoiding the bandage, and she said softly, "Then you stay. For now. You stay here where the door has guards, and the bed is soft, and you heal. And you watch him. You watch him with your eyes open, Mija, not with the eyes that want to rescue, the eyes that know the difference between a rescue and a new kind of cage." "I will. Promise. I promise, Mama." "Tuss." That night, after her mother had gone home with a promise to come back tomorrow and every tomorrow after, Lena sat alone in the living room. The city had turned to lights. Nikolai came in quietly. He had a book under his arm and a glass of something amber in two glasses, and he paused in the doorway. "I can come back later," he said. "No, it's your apartment. It is ours while you are here." She didn't know what to do with that either. He sat down in the armchair across from her. He set the two glasses on the table, and he poured a little bit of the amber into one and looked at her, eyebrows up. I probably shouldn't." She gestured at her head. "Painkillers." "Of course." He poured himself a very small measure. He set the bottle down. He did not drink yet. He sat holding the glass. "Your mother," he said. "She is well?" She's my mother. She's strong. She is angry." "She's very angry." "At you or at me?"
Both.
He almost smiled. Almost. The corner of his mouth moved and then decided against it. "That is fair," he said. Lena watched him. In the lamplight, his face looked different than it had in the morning, less controlled. There was a tiredness in him she had not seen before, a softness at the edge of the jaw, and she wondered for the first time how old he actually was. He looked 40. He looked 60. He looked like a man who had not slept a full night in 10 years. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Yes?" "Why did you come?" "You asked me that last night in the car." "I know. You said because I asked, but—" She stopped. She started again. That's not why a person does what you did. People get texts from wrong numbers every day. They don't drive across the city with however many men that was. Six. They don't do that." He turned the glass in his hand. He watched the amber move. "When I was 11, he said, without looking up, "my mother was killed by a man who was supposed to love her." Lena didn't breathe. "It was a Tuesday," he said. "I remember this because of a television show I did not get to finish watching. My father was at sea. He was a merchant sailor. He was gone 9 months of the year. My mother had a man she had been seeing for about a year. He was a man from our building. He was very kind when he was not drinking. This is something I noticed early, that a person can be two people, that the kind one is sometimes a lie told by the other one." He took a small sip of the amber. He set the glass down. "She told me once that she was going to leave him. She told me this while she was braiding my sister's hair. She told me, 'Do not worry, Solnishko. We are going to go to your grandmother's in the country for a little while.' She told me she had a plan. She didn't get out. She did not get out. I'm sorry. Do not be. It is a long time ago. It is. And I am—" He made a small gesture with one hand, a dismissive gesture. "I am what you see. A man who, when a message comes to him that he was not supposed to receive, does not put the phone down. That is all." "You said I was the first person who had ever asked you for something like that. In the car." "Yes." "What did you mean?" He looked at her then. "People ask me for things all the time, Lena. They ask me for money. They ask me for favors. They ask me for violence sometimes. Although they are careful about how they ask me because I am useful to them. But no one has ever—" He stopped. He seemed to consider his words the way a man considers the last move in a chess game. "No one has ever sent me, by accident, a message that said, 'Help.' No one has ever trusted me with something they did not mean to trust me with. It was not a request. It was a hand in the dark, reaching, and mine was the one it found." "Me, Borshalkin." "That's not a reason." "No." "That's a coincidence." "Yes." "Then why—" "Because," he said, and his voice went low, "I have spent 23 years being the man I am. I have been good at it. I have made a great deal of money, and I have made a great deal of trouble, and I have not in 23 years woken up one single morning with the feeling that I had done one thing that day that I would be proud of when I was dying. Not one. And last night, at 9:47, a message came to my phone that I could do something about, and I could not explain to myself why I would not. None such bit. He picked up the glass. He drank. He set it down. "That is not a romantic answer," he said. I do not have a romantic answer. I am sorry. Lena was quiet for a long time. It's the best answer I've ever gotten, she said, finally. He looked at her. My mom told me you'd be a different kind of cage. She may be right. Are you? He thought about it. I do not know yet, he said. I have never tried to not be one. She laughed. It surprised her. It came out of her before she could stop it, a small broken laugh, and she winced when her split lip pulled, and she put her good hand up to her mouth. Sorry, she said. Do not be. That was a very honest answer. I told you in the morning. I am not going to lie to you. Why? He was quiet. Because, he said eventually, I think you have been lied to enough for one lifetime. And because I am very tired, Lena Carter. I am very tired of the way I have been living. I do not know what it is to live another way. But you sat in my living room this morning, and you asked me a question, and you ate Elena's oatmeal, and you called your mother, and it was the first time in a very long time that I remembered there was a word for morning that did not mean the same thing as work. That is not your job. It is not your problem. But it is the truth. Lena looked at him. I'm going to be here for a while, I think, she said quietly. Yes. And I'm going to be messy. I'm not going to be a guest. I'm going to cry in your kitchen. I'm going to have bad nights. I'm going to be ugly. I was in that apartment for 2 years. It's not going to come out of me in a weekend. I know. And I need you to promise me something. Yes. If I tell you to leave me alone, you leave me alone. If I tell you I need a room with a door that locks, you give me that room. If I tell you to take me to my mother's and never come back, I take you there and I never come back. Promise me. I promise you. Say my name. He looked at her. Lena, he said. I promise you. She nodded. She picked up the empty glass he had poured for her, and she held it in her good hand, and she turned it in the light, and she did not drink from it, because she couldn't. But she held it, because it was something to hold, and the two of them sat like that for a long time in a living room 43 floors above a city that did not know she was there. And somewhere far below, a man named Derek Malone was sitting in a room he did not understand, beginning to be afraid of a man he had never met. And Lena Carter was, without knowing it yet, beginning to be a woman she had not been in a very long time. She did not know how long. She did not know what was coming. She only knew when Elena came in at 10 and said, "Bed, honey." And she got up, and she said goodnight to Nikolai. And he stood when she stood, the way her grandfather used to stand when a woman left a room, that for the first time in 22 months, she walked down a hallway to a bed where a man was not going to follow her. She lay down in the dark. She listened to the city. She did not cry. She thought instead about the small girl named Amara at the community center on Saturdays, the one with the missing teeth, and she wondered, for the first time in a week, whether she would be able to go on Saturday, whether her face would still be too bad, whether she could find a scarf, whether she would go at all. And then she thought, I will go. I will go anyway. Let them see. And she fell asleep, in a stranger's bed, in a stranger's apartment, with her hand curled around a pillow that smelled like clean linen, while somewhere down the long, quiet hallway, a man she did not know sat up a little longer with a glass. He did not finish, looking out at a city full of lights, thinking about a word his mother had used to call him, a long time ago, on a different continent, in a different life. Solnishko, little son. He had not thought of it in 30 years. He did not know, yet, why he was thinking of it tonight. The first week passed in a blur of bruises changing color. Lena learned the rhythm of the apartment slowly, the way you learn a song you've only half heard on the radio. Elena arrived at 6:30 every morning and left at 7 in the evening, and in between those hours she moved through the rooms with the quiet competence of a woman who had been doing this work for 20 years and had seen, in that time, every version of human damage that could be deposited on a soft gray duvet. Elena cooked food that was easy to chew. Elena did not ask questions. Elena hummed sometimes when she was in the kitchen, old songs in a language Lena could not place, and Lena caught herself on the third morning standing in the hallway just listening, because it had been a long time since she had been in a house where a woman hummed without looking over her shoulder. Nikolai was there and he was not there. He left early, most days. He came back at 7 or 8. Some nights he did not come back until after midnight, and Lena heard the elevator ding from her bedroom and the soft sound of his shoes on the entry tile. And then nothing. No television, no music, just the hiss of a faucet in the kitchen for a minute, and then the click of a door down the hallway. He did not come into her room. He did not knock on her door. He did not text her, although he had, on the second day, handed her a new phone. A simple one, with 3 numbers already programmed into it. His. Her mother's. A number labeled emergency that he had not explained. "Your old phone is broken," he had said, handing it to her. "I will get you your contacts if you tell me who you want. Only the people you want." She had told him Marisol. She had told him her sister in Savannah. She had told him her boss at the nonprofit, whose name was Janet, and whom she needed to call and needed to not call, and was already beginning to dread. The call to Janet had happened on the 4th day. "Lena, oh honey, oh my God, where are you? I'm safe, Janet. I'm okay. I can't come in for a while. I can't. Honey, what happened? Your mom called and said something had happened and that you were, I need to take a leave. Can I do that? You can do anything you need to do. You have vacation banked. Take it. Take whatever honey, you don't need to explain. I'll figure it out. Are you safe? Just tell me you're safe." "I'm safe." "Say it again." "I'm safe, Janet." She had cried after hanging up. Not big, not dramatic, just a quiet leak of tears into the pillow on the couch, because she had discovered, that week, that kindness from strangers broke her faster than anything else. Yelling she could take. Silence she could take. A woman on the other end of a phone saying, "Honey, are you safe?" had taken her apart like a pulled thread. On the 5th day, her sister drove up from Savannah and Lena led her into the apartment. And her sister, who was 2 years younger and had always been the tougher one, took one look at her face and swore in a way their mother would not have approved of and sat down on the floor of the living room and put her hands over her face. "I'm going to kill him," her sister said. "You don't need to kill him." "Lena, somebody already handled it." Her sister had looked up. "What does that mean?" "It means somebody already handled it." Her sister had looked around the living room. She had looked at the grand piano. She had looked at the city through the window. She had looked back at Lena. "Lena," she said. "I know." "Lena, who?" I know. "Lena, are you in some kind of—" "I don't know yet," Lena said. "I don't know what I'm in yet, but I know I'm not in that apartment. And I know my wrist is healing. And I know a woman named Elena made me oatmeal this morning. And that's as far as I can think right now, okay?" Her sister had hugged her for a long time. Her sister had left. Her sister had called every day since, and the bruises had started to change. On the morning of the 9th day, Lena stood in front of the bathroom mirror, and she watched the purple around her eye begin to go yellow at the edges, and she felt something move inside her chest that she had not felt in a long time. Not hope, exactly. Something smaller than hope. Something the size of a coin. The recognition that her face was going to be her face again. That the woman in the mirror was going to be recognizable to herself, eventually, given enough mornings. She ate breakfast with Elena in the kitchen that day. She had started doing that on the 6th day, sitting at the marble island on a stool while Elena worked, and Elena had not told her to go eat at the dining table, which she appreciated, because she had not been able to eat at a table alone since the first time she had eaten at one with Derek watching her cut her food. "Elena," she said. "Yes, honey." "How long have you worked for him?" Elena wiped her hands on a towel. 14 years. 14. He hired me when his last housekeeper retired. She was my cousin. She recommended me. What is he like? Elena looked at her with a small, knowing smile. You live with him now. You know what he's like. I don't live with him. I'm a guest. You are a guest who he changes his whole day for. Lena felt her face warm. She looked down at the berries in her bowl. He doesn't change his whole day. On Tuesday, he was meant to fly to Miami. He did not go. He sent Dima. On Wednesday, he had 3 meetings. 2 he rescheduled. On Thursday, he came home at 6. He has not come home at 6 in 6 years, honey. He came home at 6 because you mentioned at breakfast that you had been reading a book, and you did not have anyone to talk about it with. Elena, I am not your mother. I am not going to tell you what to do. I am telling you what I see, because I have worked here 14 years and I see everything. Elena set the towel down. I have seen a lot of women in this apartment, honey. Lena's stomach moved. How many? Not so many, and not like this. Elena, what do you mean, not like this? I mean, Elena said, looking at her evenly, the other ones knew what they were there for, and none of them slept in the gray room, and none of them ate breakfast with me, and he never came home at 6 for any of them. That is what I mean. I am not saying this to make you afraid, honey. I am saying it so that when you decide with your eyes open. My mother said the same thing. Your mother is a smart woman. Tell her I said so. Lena pushed the berries around with her spoon. She thought about her mother. She thought about her sister. She thought about the coin-sized thing in her chest that had become, in the last few days, something slightly larger than a coin. Elena, I want to do something today. What, honey? I want to go outside. Elena looked at her. I will call Dima, Elena said. Do I have to have somebody with me? For now, honey, yes. Lena nodded. She ate the rest of her berries. She went back to her room, and she put on the first real outfit she had put on in 9 days. Jeans, a soft sweater, a scarf that she arranged around her throat to cover the last of the bruises, and a pair of large sunglasses that hid most of her face. She looked at herself in the mirror, and she looked like a woman on the run from a bad breakup, which she supposed she was. Dima drove her. He was quiet in the car. He was not a man who filled silence. He had a head the size of a small melon and hands like catcher's mitts, and he drove the big black SUV with a gentleness that did not match the rest of him. And Lena sat in the back seat and watched the city go by through tinted glass. And she did not ask him where they were going, because she had asked him downstairs and he had said, "Wherever you want, Miss Carter." "Piedmont Park," she had said, because it had been the first thing she thought of. He had said, "Yes, ma'am." He parked on 10th Street. He got out. He opened her door. He did not take her arm. He walked 2 steps behind her and a step to her left, the way she had seen men walk behind women on television, and she tried not to think about how ridiculous she looked. A woman in sunglasses with a mountain of a man at her shoulder, crossing the grass toward the small pond where the ducks were. It was October. The air had that clean snap to it that Atlanta gets for about 3 weeks a year, the one good stretch before the cold comes, and the one good stretch after the summer gives up, and the trees were starting to turn, and there was a woman with a stroller and a man with a small white dog and 2 girls on a blanket doing homework. And for a long minute, Lena stood on the path and watched all of it, and remembered that the world had been continuing without her. It had been doing that all along. It had done that during the 2 years in the apartment, too. She had forgotten. She walked along the path. Dima followed. She stopped at a bench and she sat down. And after a second, Dima sat down on the other end, leaving a respectful 3 feet of space between them. And he pulled out his phone and he pretended to look at it. "You don't have to pretend," she said. "Ma'am? You don't have to pretend to be on your phone. I don't mind if you just sit." He put the phone away. He folded his enormous hands in his lap. He watched a duck. "Dima." "Yes, ma'am." "How long have you worked for him?" 19 years. 19. "Yes, ma'am." "What is he like?" Dima was quiet a long time. "He is a man," Dima said, "who keeps his word." "That's a politician's answer." Dima smiled a little. It was a small, almost shy smile, and it made his face, which had seemed frightening in the car, look briefly like a boy's. "I was 18 when I started working for him," he said. "He was 22. He paid for my mother's surgery when I had been with him 6 months. He did not tell me he was doing it. My mother told me. She asked me, 'Who is this man who paid for my hospital?' And I did not know how to answer her. That is what he is like, Miss Carter. He does things, and he does not tell you he did them. Has he ever—" She stopped. She did not know how to ask it. "Hurt someone?" "Yes." "Yes, ma'am." "Many people?" "Yes." "Women?" Dima looked at her. He looked at her for a long second. He was not offended. He was considering. "Never a woman who did not deserve it," he said eventually. "And none that I know of. I have been with him 19 years. I would know." "You would tell me?" "If you asked." "I'm asking." "Then I am telling you." Lena watched the duck. The duck was not concerned about any of this. "Dima." "Yes, ma'am." "Why is he—" She trailed off. She tried again. "He is acting like I am. Important. To him." Dima considered. "Yes, ma'am." "Why?" Dima watched the duck. I do not know the why, he said. I only know what I see, and I have not in 19 years seen him change his schedule for a person. Not even his mother, when she was alive, which is a thing I should not say, but I am saying to you because I think you should know. He did not go home to her when she was sick. He sent money, he sent doctors, he did not go. He was a different man then. He was building, and he has been building for 19 years, and he has not, in 19 years, rearranged his life for a human being. He rearranged it for you on the first day. That is all I know. Yin. Lena did not say anything. They sat in the sun for a while. She watched a little boy throw a piece of bread into the pond, and a duck squabble for it with another duck. And the little boy laughed with his whole face, and she felt, without wanting to, her eyes sting. She was so tired of crying. She was so tired of not crying. She was so tired of being a woman whose baseline emotional state was the inside of a washing machine. I want to go home, she said after a while. Yes, ma'am. He drove her back. Nikolai was in the kitchen when she came in. He had not been there in the morning. He was standing at the island in shirt sleeves, his jacket over a stool, reading something on a tablet. He looked up when she walked in, and his face did a small thing, a small relief thing that she was not supposed to notice and did. You went out. I went to the park. How was it? There was a duck. He smiled, a small, real smile. The first one she had seen on him. A duck. 2 ducks. They fought over bread. This is important news. I thought you should know. Thank you. She set her sunglasses down on the island. She pulled the scarf off her neck. The yellow bruises at her throat were still there, but they were fading, and he looked at them briefly, and then looked at her face because he was careful like that. And he said, You are healing. Yes. How do you feel? I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I feel like a person who hasn't felt anything in a long time, and now she's feeling things, and she doesn't remember what any of them are called. He nodded. He understood that. She could see he understood that. I have something to talk to you about, he said, if you are up to it. It is not urgent. It can wait until tomorrow. But I wanted to mention it today so you could decide when. Now is fine. You're sure? Now is fine, Nikolai. She had started calling him Nikolai around day 4. She did not know when. It had slipped out. He had not reacted. He had not said anything. He had let her call him Nikolai, and she had kept doing it. He set the tablet down. I fund a community center, he said, in West End. Through a foundation. The foundation does not have my name on it. This is the case for most of the things I do that I am not ashamed of. He said that last part as a kind of dry aside, almost to himself, and she let out a small surprised laugh, and he looked at her, and his mouth moved a little, and he continued. It is called the Pinewood Center. It serves about 300 children after school. We have tutoring, we have meals, we have an arts program that is run by a woman I trust. We also have programs for mothers, job training, English classes, a legal clinic on Thursdays. It is a thing I built about 8 years ago for reasons I do not entirely understand, but I have kept building it, and it has become, I think, a good thing. Lena was very still. Elena mentioned to me that you volunteer at a community center. On Saturdays, at a different one, in Kirkwood. Yes, she told me. What did you... I spoke this morning to the director of Pinewood, a woman named Yvette Booker. I told her about you, not everything. I told her you are a grant writer. I told her you are a woman who is rebuilding her life. I told her I thought you would be good with the children. She told me she has been trying to hire a grant writer for 2 years and cannot afford one. And I told her Pinewood could afford one now if you were willing. Lena stared at him. You made me a job. I funded a position. It is a real position. It is a position Pinewood genuinely needs. The salary comes from the foundation, not from me. You would report to Yvette, not to me. I would not under any circumstances be your employer. I want that to be clear. You want me to write grants? I want you to do what you are good at, in a place where it matters, for a woman who will treat you well, with a population of children you will love. That is what I want. If you do not want it, you say no, and I will never mention it again. And I will find someone else for the position, which I am funding either way. Because Yvette has been asking for 2 years. She looked at him. Nikolai. Yes. I can't just, you can think about it. Can I? She stopped. Can I meet her? The director. Before I say yes or no. Of course. I can set it up for next week. Or whenever you are ready. She knows only that you are a friend of the foundation. She does not know anything else. You told her nothing about Derek, nothing about what happened. She does not know where you live. She does not know my name. The foundation is run through a third party. She knows only that I recommended you. Lena sat down on a stool. Her hand was shaking a little, and she set it flat on the cool marble to steady it. Why are you doing this? I'm making you an offer. You have no obligation to accept it. Nikolai, please, I need you to answer me honestly. He looked at her. Because, he said, I watched you for 9 days in this apartment, and on the 4th day I realized you had stopped looking at the window. Do you know what I mean? What? On the 1st day? The 2nd day? The 3rd day? You looked at the window like it was a thing you wanted to fall out of, and on the 4th day you did not. You still hurt, but you had stopped wanting to fall out of the window, and I thought, this is a person who is beginning to come back. And a person who is beginning to come back needs a place to come back to. And I have one. That is all. She could not speak. He seemed to realize he had said too much. He looked away. He picked up the tablet. He said, in a different voice, I will tell Yvette you are thinking about it. Take your time. Nikolai. Yes. Okay. Okay, you will think about it. Okay. I will meet her. Next week. Yes. He set the tablet down. I will tell her, he said. Thursday. Is Thursday good? Thursday is good. He nodded. He picked up his jacket. He moved toward the hallway. Nikolai. He stopped. Thank you. He did not turn around. He stood in the doorway with his jacket in his hand. She watched the back of his head, the dark hair starting to gray at the nape, and she thought he was going to say, You are welcome, or it is nothing, or one of the other small, smooth phrases that men say when women thank them. Instead, he said, You do not have to thank me, Lena. I am doing this for myself. And then he went. She met Yvette Booker on a Thursday morning. Dima drove her. The community center was a long, low brick building on a street off Lee Street with a basketball court on one side and a community garden on the other. And when she stepped out of the car, she could smell collards cooking somewhere and hear the squeak of sneakers on gym floor inside and a little boy shouting, I got it, I got it, I got it. And she stood on the sidewalk for a second and closed her eyes. Yvette was a black woman in her 50s with silver braids and a laugh like a jazz bar. She hugged Lena on sight. She did not comment on the last of the bruising at Lena's cheek, although Lena knew from the way Yvette's eyes skated over it once and then never again that she had seen it and had understood it and had, in that moment, decided not to need to ask. Walk with me, baby. Let me show you the place. They walked. The center was warm and loud in the way that places full of children are warm and loud. There was a cafeteria. There was a computer lab. There was a room with tiny chairs and tiny tables where 2 women were setting out glue sticks and construction paper. There was a gymnasium where 8 or 9 kids were scrimmaging half-court with a woman in a tracksuit. There was a room labeled Quiet Room where a girl of maybe 12 was reading a book in a beanbag chair, and Yvette put a finger to her lips as they passed the door. You come to us from writing grants for the environmental folks. Yes, ma'am. Don't ma'am me. Yvette. Just Yvette. Yes, Yvette. You ever write for a place that does what we do? I used to volunteer at a center in Kirkwood, a smaller one. I wrote their annual report for them, unofficially, for 2 years. So you know what you're doing. I know what I'm doing. And you need a change. Lena stopped walking. They were in a hallway. There was a bulletin board on the wall with children's drawings tacked to it, and one of the drawings was a family, mother and father and 2 small children, under a sun that was smiling, and Lena looked at it for one long second before she looked at Yvette. Yes, she said. I need a change. Okay then. Yvette. Yes, baby. I don't know how much he told you. He told me nothing. He told me a friend of the foundation had been through something. He told me she was strong. He told me she could write. That's all he told me, and that's all I'm going to ask. You hear me? I hear you. You don't owe me anything, baby. Not one story, not one detail. You come here, you do your work, you help me get these kids what they deserve. That is the deal. Anything else is yours to keep. Lena nodded. Her eyes had gone wet again. She was so tired of her eyes going wet. When can you start? I don't know. You tell me, no pressure, but I will say this. Those kids out there, they like new people. Nothing heals a human being faster than a 6-year-old deciding you are their favorite. Lena laughed. A real laugh. It came out of her and she heard it in the hallway, and it startled her a little because it sounded like the laugh she used to have, the one from before, the one she had thought was gone. Monday, she said. I can start Monday. Monday it is. Yvette walked her back to the front. At the door, a small girl, maybe 5, came running down the hallway with a paper airplane and smacked straight into Lena's leg and stopped and looked up and said, with complete unself-conscious solemnity, "You smell like flowers." "Thank you." "Is that your plane?" "No. It's mine. Do you want it?" Yes, okay. Yes." The little girl handed her the plane. The little girl ran away. Lena stood in the doorway of the Pinewood Center holding a slightly crumpled paper airplane made of lined notebook paper, and she felt the coin-sized thing in her chest grow to the size of a fist. In the car, going home, she held the airplane on her lap. "Miss Carter." "Yes, Dima." "Good day." "Good day, Dima." She did not cry until she got upstairs. She went into her bedroom and she closed the door. And she sat on the floor with her back against the bed and she cried for 20 minutes, quietly, into her own wrist, and she did not know, even as she was doing it, whether it was grief or gratitude or something newer than either. A mourning for the 2 years she had lost, a rage at what she had let Derek do to the woman who used to laugh like that, a thank you, a bewildered thank you, to the stranger who had made a job for her in a building full of children because he had watched her stop wanting to fall out of a window. When she came out for dinner, Nikolai was home early again. He had his sleeves rolled. He was setting a table that Elena had already set, moving a fork half an inch to the left, and he looked up when she came in, and he looked at her face and he said carefully, "Yvette." "Yvette," Lena said, "I start Monday." His shoulders did something, a release. She had not realized he had been holding them. "Good," he said. "She didn't ask me anything. I told her not to. I know. I know you did. Thank you." "You do not—" I know. You're doing it for yourself, I know." She sat down. She picked up her napkin. She put it in her lap. "Nikolai." "Yes." "Eat with me." He looked at her. It was a small ask. It was not a small ask. He had, in 11 days, eaten in the same room as her exactly twice. And both times he had been finishing something and standing and leaving with the polite excuse of a meeting, a call, a plane. He had not sat down across from her. He had not broken bread with her. He had kept, very deliberately, a line. He pulled out the chair across from her. He sat down. Elena brought the food. She brought a roasted chicken because Lena's tooth had been fixed 3 days ago and she could chew now, and she brought potatoes and a salad with no onions because Nikolai did not like onions. And she brought a bottle of wine, and she set it down, and she did not pour any, which was a small kindness Lena noticed, because Lena had stopped drinking the day she had arrived and had not started again, and Elena had been watching. They ate. They talked about small things. Her morning. His morning, in the vaguest possible terms. The weather. A book he had left on the counter that she had started reading. He asked her about her sister. She asked him, carefully, if he had any siblings. And his face went still for a second, and he said, "One, a younger sister, in Berlin. I have not seen her in 11 years. "Why not?" He looked at her over his wine. "Because," he said, "she does not want to be seen by me. She is not wrong to want that." Lena did not push. She had learned in 11 days when to stop. After dinner, she helped Elena clear because she had started doing that on the 7th day, and Elena had stopped arguing by the 9th. Nikolai had gone into his office. She could see the light under the door at the end of the hall. She washed 2 wine glasses. She dried them. She said goodnight to Elena, and she walked down the hall and she paused, just for a second, outside his office door. She heard nothing. She almost knocked. She did not knock. She went to bed. She lay in the dark, and she thought about the paper airplane on her dresser, and she thought about the little girl, and she thought about the shape her life had been a month ago. She thought about Derek, somewhere, in some room, under some arrangement she had not decided yet. She thought about the small, terrible fact that she had not, in the last 5 days, thought about him for more than a few minutes at a time. She thought about the man down the hall. She thought about his sister in Berlin, who did not want to be seen by him. She thought about what a man does in 11 years, to make his sister not want to be seen by him. And she thought about what a man does, in 11 days, to make a stranger want to sit across a table from him, to make her bring him home into her evening, to make her stand outside his office door and almost knock before she lost her nerve and went to bed. She fell asleep slower than she had the nights before. She dreamed for the first time in weeks of something that was not Derek. She dreamed she was walking down a hallway full of children's drawings, and at the end of it there was a door, and on the other side of the door there was a sound she could not identify. And when she reached the door and opened it, she saw a room full of white light, and a man sitting in it with his head in his hands. And he looked up when she came in, and his eyes were the gray of a storm that had not yet broken. And he said her name the way he had said it the first time, softly, carefully, like he was not sure he was allowed to, Lena. And she did not know, in the dream, what she said back. But she knew, when she woke up in the dark at 3 a.m., with her heart doing something fast and confused in her chest, that she had said something, and that, whatever it was, she had meant it. Monday came. Lena put on a blouse she had bought on the phone the night before from a boutique that delivered, because she had not brought any of her clothes from the old apartment and had not, she realized, wanted to. Her old clothes smelled like Derek's cologne. Her old clothes had been chosen, most of them, with Derek's opinions in mind. She did not want any of it. She wanted new fabric against her skin, new buttons, a collar she had picked for herself. She drank her coffee standing at the window. Dima was waiting downstairs. She was not ready. She was more than ready. She had not, in 22 months, been anything as complicated as nervous about a first day of work, and she stood at the glass and watched the city wake up and thought, I am a person with a first day. Nikolai came into the kitchen behind her. She heard him set something on the counter. She turned. He had a small leather folio in his hand. He was already dressed for his own day, in a gray suit, and his hair was damp at the edges. And he looked at her for a second in the blouse and the dark jeans and the low heels she had bought on the phone, and he said, You look well. I look like a person. Yes. Thank you. He held out the folio. For your first day. Nikolai, it is not from me. It is from Yvette. I ran into her at a meeting on Friday, and she gave it to me to give to you. A few forms. Your contract. The employee handbook, which is 40 pages, and which she told me to tell you most people do not read. Lena took the folio. She held it against her chest. Okay. I'm going to go. Okay. She did not move. He did not move. There was a small silence in the kitchen that she did not know what to do with. Have a good day, Lena, he said finally. You too. She went. The first week at Pinewood was exhausting, in a way that her body had almost forgotten it could be tired. She came home at 6 every night and she sat on the couch, and she did not move for 40 minutes, and Elena brought her tea and did not speak, and she felt, for the first time in a long time, the specific satisfying tiredness of a body that had done something with its day. She had written 2 small grant applications for local funders. She had shadowed Yvette in 3 meetings. She had eaten lunch with the children in the cafeteria on Tuesday, and a boy named Omar had told her she had a nice forehead, and she had laughed so hard she had choked on her juice. On Friday night, Nikolai was home when she came in. He was on the couch with a book open on his knee, in sweatpants and a plain navy t-shirt that was so ordinary it startled her. She had not seen him in anything but a suit. He looked, in the sweatpants, about 10 years younger and about 10 degrees more breakable, and she stopped in the doorway of the living room and she said, You're home early. I did not have anywhere to be. Oh, how was your week? She sat down on the other couch. She pulled her feet up under her. She thought about the question, actually thought about it, which was itself a new thing. I liked it, she said. I liked it a lot. I was tired. I cried twice. I laughed more than that. He closed the book. What did you cry about? She hesitated. A little girl named Janessa. She's 7. Her mother dropped her off on Wednesday morning, and Yvette told me later that her mother is where I was, in an apartment with a man who, and Janessa knows. You can see it in her. She is 7, and she is already watching rooms the way I watched rooms last month. And I don't know. I went home at lunch and I cried in my car for 10 minutes, and then I went back. Nikolai was very still. And the other time? The other time what? You said you cried twice. Oh, the other time? Omar told me I had a nice forehead. He laughed. It came out of him before he could catch it. A short, surprised laugh, and the sound of it startled both of them. She had not heard him laugh yet. She had seen him smile. She had not heard the laugh. It was lower than his speaking voice. It rolled out of his chest like something that had been stuck there. A nice forehead. A nice forehead. He was very sincere. Omar has taste. He's 8. Taste begins young. She smiled. Her face did it without her permission. She looked at him on the couch in his old sweatpants with a paperback open on his knee, and she thought, for the first time in words, I do not know what I am doing here. I do not know what I am doing here at all. Lena. Yes. There is something I need to talk to you about. It is about Derek. The smile went out of her face. He saw it go. We do not have to do it tonight. It can wait, but it needs to happen soon. You have been here almost 4 weeks. I have not pressed. I will not press tonight if you tell me not to. She was quiet for a moment. Tonight is okay. You are sure? Tell me. He set the book down. He turned a little on the couch so he was facing her. Derek is in a facility in Tennessee, he said. It is a private facility. He has been there for 26 days. He has been told what will happen to him if he leaves before I say he may, and he believes what he has been told, which is the main thing. He is being held. He is not being hurt. He eats. He has a bed. He has, I am told, been crying most days, which the people I have talking to him tell me is a common progression for men like him, when the thing they use to control their women is taken away from them. He is also sober, which he has not been in 11 years, according to his mother, with whom one of my people has had a very useful conversation. Lena was listening with her whole body. The options are these, Nikolai said. Option 1. I let him go, not free. I release him with a list of conditions. He does not contact you. He does not come to Atlanta. He does not drink. He goes to a place I choose, far from here, and he takes a job I arrange for him, and he lives a small life under the eye of people who work for me. If he breaks any condition, he is brought back to the facility. This option protects you, and it does not ruin him. And it is the option that the lawyers would tell you is the cleanest, because no one ever reports him, no one ever arrests him, and you never have to see his face in a courtroom. Lena did not say anything. Option 2. We go to the police. There's evidence, Lena. The hospital records from 6 months ago. The records from the night I came to you. The photographs the doctor took while you were unconscious. The text messages on your phone before it was destroyed, which we recovered. There is enough. It is not guaranteed because these cases are never guaranteed, but it is as strong a case as a prosecutor gets. And it would put him in prison for probably 3 to 7 years. You would have to testify. You would have to sit in a room and look at him across a table and tell a jury what he did. It would be on the news, probably. Not a big news story. A small one. But it would be in the papers. And it would be, I will be honest with you, very ugly for you for a long time before it was over. She swallowed. Option 3. There is an option 3? You do nothing. He stays where he is. I keep him there. He does not get released, and he does not get arrested. He lives out his life in that facility, and eventually, in a year or 2 or 5, whenever you tell me, I let him out or I don't. This is the cruelest option. I want you to understand that. It is the cruelest to him. But it is an option I will take if you ask me to, and I will not lose a minute of sleep over it. Lena sat with her hands in her lap. She looked at the carpet for a long time. You said I could also decide, no. She looked up. No. That option is not available. I should not have offered it to you the first morning. I was angry and I had not slept, and I said something I should not have said. I do not kill men for women. I do not want to be the man who kills men for a woman. I especially do not want to be that man for you, because you would find out eventually, and it would be a thing in the room between us forever, and I will not have that. So that is not an option. I apologize that I ever offered it." Lena nodded, slowly. "Okay." Which is not to say, he added, with the small dry edge she had started to notice, that the people currently in Tennessee are being particularly kind to him. They are not hurting him, but they are not his friends. "Okay." She took a long breath. "I need time, Nikolai." "You have time." "Not because I don't know. I think I know. I think I want option 2. I think I want the police, but I need to think about it, and I need to talk to my mother, and I need to take the week, take the month. He is not going anywhere." "Okay. Okay." They sat. She said, after a while, "Can I ask you something?" "Yes." "How many women, like me, have you done something like this for?" He looked at her. "None," he said. "Nikolai, none, Lena. I have helped people. I have given people money. I have, a handful of times, made bad men experience consequences. I have never, in my life, put someone in the gray bedroom. I have never once asked Elena to make oatmeal soft enough for a cracked tooth. I have never told Yvette to make a job for someone. I have never said to Dima, she goes where she wants to go. And if she tells you to drive her to the airport, you drive her to the airport and you do not tell me. That is not a thing I have done for any person before. Did you tell him that?" "I told him that on the second day. He took it seriously. He would have driven you. I wanted you to know." She did not know what to do with her face. She looked down at her hands in her lap. "You told him that on the second day?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I did not want you to stay because you thought you had to." She felt something turn over inside her chest. "Nikolai." "Yes. I would like to not talk about Derek for the rest of the weekend, if that's okay." "Of course." "And I would like—" She stopped. She was not sure what she was about to say. She was not sure she had permission from herself to say it. She tried anyway. "I would like to know things about you. I have been here almost 4 weeks. I know Elena has worked for you 14 years. I know Dima has worked for you 19. I know you have a sister in Berlin who doesn't want to see you. I know your mother died. And that's the whole list. That's what I have." He was quiet. "What do you want to know?" "Anything. Whatever you want to tell me." He looked at her for a long moment. Then he got up. He walked to the kitchen. He came back with 2 glasses, one with water, one with the amber drink he liked, and he set the water in front of her, and he sat down on the couch with her this time, not too close, the far end, and he leaned back and he closed his eyes for a second before he started. "My father was a merchant sailor. He died when I was 16. A storm. His ship went down off the coast of Iceland. My mother had already died by then, as I told you. My sister was 9. I had an aunt in Minsk who took her. She would not take me. She said I was too old and too angry, and she was not wrong about either thing. I went to live with a cousin who was a thief. He taught me how to steal. I was good at it. I was better at not getting caught than I was at stealing, which was the valuable part. By the time I was 19, I was working for a man who moved cigarettes across borders. By 21, I was working for a man who moved other things. By 24, I was the man other people worked for. By 28, I had moved to the United States because the man I had been working for had decided I was too ambitious to keep alive. And I had decided the same about him, and only one of us had gotten out of that conversation, and it was not the one who had been born there. He opened his eyes. He looked at the ceiling. I brought my sister out when I was 30. She was 23. She lived with me in Miami for a year. She was the only family I had left. We fought. We fought badly. She wanted me to get out of the life. I told her the life got out of people. People did not get out of the life. She told me she loved me and she could not watch me. She moved to Berlin. She became a translator. She married a German man. They have 2 children I have never met. She sends me a photograph on my birthday every year. It is always of the children. It is never of her. Lena did not speak. She stopped speaking to me when she heard I had killed a man. She had known, abstractly, that I had killed men. She had not known one of them by name. The one she heard about was a man I had been close to, a man I thought was my friend. He had betrayed me in a specific way, and I had done something about it, and my sister had heard the story from somewhere, and she had sent me a letter. Not an email. A letter. She said, I do not want you in the lives of my children. I am sorry. I love you. Do not come. When was that? 11 years ago. Have you ever written back? Every year, on her birthday. Does she answer? No. Lena did not know what to say. She did not try to say anything. She sat with her hands around the glass of water and she let the silence be what it was. I built what I have built, he said, because I did not know how to do anything else. I did not know how to stop. I did not know, at some point, why I was doing it. I have an enormous amount of money, Lena. I have more than I will ever need. I have not, in 5 years, bought a thing I wanted. I have not wanted a thing. I have gone to work. I have come home. I have eaten food Elena made me. I have slept 4 hours a night. I have woken up. I have gone to work. This has been the shape of my life. And I was not unhappy, exactly. I was nothing, which is not the same as happy, but is also not the same as sad. And I had decided that was enough. Nikolai. Yes. Why are you telling me this? Because you asked. That's not because I'm afraid, he said quietly, looking straight ahead, that if I do not tell you who I am, you will build a version of me in your head that is better than the real one. And you will come to love that version. And then you will find out who I am, later when you are in deeper, and it will break you. And I have decided I will not let that happen. I will not let you love a ghost of me. If you love anyone in this apartment, you will love the real thing, or you will not love at all. Lena felt her face go hot. Nikolai, I know. I didn't ego. I know. I know you did not say that. I am not accusing you. I am saying in advance what I think is true about the shape of this, and I am putting the truth of myself on the table between us, because if anything is going to happen here, it is going to happen with the lights on. That is what I am saying. She set her glass down. I don't know what I feel yet. I know. I was in an apartment 3.5 weeks ago, Nikolai. I can't be in love with somebody 3.5 weeks after that. I don't know if I can be in love with somebody ever again. I know. And you're a man who has done things I don't know what to do with. I don't know if I can. I don't know what it means that I'm still here. I know. Stop saying I know. He almost smiled. Then tell me what else to say. Tell me you'll let me not know for a while. He turned his head and looked at her. Lena, I will let you not know for the rest of your life if that is what you need. I did not tell you any of this tonight to hurry you. I told you because you asked and because you deserve to hurry nothing, for anyone, for any reason, ever again. Do you hear me? I hear you. I have waited 41 years to say anything like this to anyone. I am in no hurry. She stared at him. He held her gaze. For the first time, he did not look away. And she saw, in the gray of his eyes, something she had not seen in any man, not ever, not once, not in her father before he died, not in her first boyfriend, not in her second, certainly not in Derek. She saw a man who was afraid. Okay, she whispered. Okay. I'm going to bed. Okay. She stood up. She walked toward the hallway. She stopped halfway there, and she turned around, and she walked back, and she bent. And she pressed her lips, very briefly, to the top of his head, the way her mother used to kiss her when she was small, and she felt him go absolutely still. Then she walked down the hall to her room, and she closed the door, and she stood with her back against it, and she breathed like she had just run a mile. Things changed after that night, but not in the way she had thought they would. He did not come to her door. He did not look at her differently at breakfast. He did not touch her. She had the feeling that he had made a decision in the quiet of his own room that he was going to give her miles of space, more space than she needed, more space than she wanted, and she was both grateful for it and a little angry about it, which was a combination she could not explain even to herself. The weeks passed. October became November. The first real cold came. Elena put a second blanket on Lena's bed without asking. Lena worked Monday through Friday at Pinewood, and her grant started getting funded, a small one first, then a larger one, and Yvette kissed her on the forehead one afternoon in the hallway and said, "Baby, you are a natural, and I do not know who sent you to me, but I am going to thank them every night in my prayers until I die." Lena did not tell Yvette who had sent her. Her face healed completely by the middle of November. The rest took longer. The tooth was perfect. The eye went from purple to yellow to green to nothing. And she looked in the mirror one morning and did not flinch for the first time at her own face. She moved through the apartment a little more freely. She sat on the couch with a book and did not jump when Nikolai came in. She started cooking sometimes on the weekends with Elena, and on the Sunday before Thanksgiving she made a pot of pozole from her mother's recipe, and Nikolai came into the kitchen and smelled it and closed his eyes and said, "This smells like a street in Havana." And her mother, who was there, looked up from the table and said sharply, "Who says that? Who says a street in Havana? Have you been?" "Yes," he said. "When?" "1996. For what?" "For a thing I did not do in the end." Rosa looked at him a long time. "You are lucky you like my daughter's cooking," she said finally, "or I would have opinions." "Ma'am, I'm sure you have opinions anyway." Rosa laughed. She actually laughed. She had not laughed in his presence before. Lena had nearly dropped the ladle. He stayed for dinner. Rosa stayed for dinner. The three of them ate pozole in the kitchen because the dining table still felt too big, and Rosa told Nikolai a story about Lena as a child. The time Lena had brought home a stray cat and hidden it in the laundry basket for 3 days before anyone noticed. And Nikolai listened with his whole face, and Lena watched him listen, and something happened in her chest that she could not name. Her mother, at the door, kissing her goodbye, whispered in Spanish, "He is not a good man, mija." "I know, Mama." "He may become one, because of you." "I know, Mama." "Be careful." "I will." "Be happy." "I am trying." Rosa held her daughter's face in her hands and she kissed her forehead and she said, "That is all I wanted, ever, for you to be trying." But then, Thanksgiving came. Nikolai did not do Thanksgiving. He had never done Thanksgiving. He asked her what she wanted to do, and she said cautiously, "I want to do Thanksgiving." And he said, "Then we are doing Thanksgiving." And she made him drive her to a grocery store at 8 in the morning, just the two of them, because Dima had a daughter in North Carolina he was visiting. And she watched him push a cart through a Kroger like a man who had not pushed a cart through a Kroger in 15 years. And she laughed at him when he picked up a turkey and looked at the weight on the sticker and said, with genuine puzzlement, "How do we know if this is a lot?" "It is a 12-pound turkey, Nikolai." "Is that a lot?" "For 4 people." "Who are our 4 people?" "Me, you, my mother, my sister. Marisol is coming too. 5. "Then it is a small amount." "No, it is fine. We don't need to feed them like kings. We just need to—" "Lena." "Yes." "It is Thanksgiving. I am going to buy a lot of turkey." He bought a lot of turkey. He bought a lot of everything. He bought 2 pies he did not even need because Lena was making pies, and she let him, because she had started to learn that this was his love language. And she had started to know that when he used the love language, he meant it. Love language. She had used the word love in her head without meaning to. She looked at him across the grocery store with his coat collar turned up and a can of cranberry sauce in his hand and a puzzled expression on his face, and she thought, oh no. She did not say anything. She put the cranberry sauce in the cart. She kept walking. That night, after Marisol and her sister and her mother had gone home, after the dishes were done, after Elena had been sent home 3 days ago for the holiday, and the apartment was just the two of them, and the hum of the dishwasher and the soft lamps in the living room, Lena sat on the couch, and she watched Nikolai sit down on the other couch, and she said, before she lost her nerve, "Nikolai." "Yes." "I made a decision." He looked at her. "About Derek?" "Yes." "Okay. I want to go to the police." He nodded, slowly. He did not look surprised. "Okay. I've been thinking about it for a month. I've talked to my mother. I've talked to my sister. I've talked to Yvette, because I had to tell her, because she needs to know if I'm going to miss work for a trial. I'm going to do it. I'm going to sit in a courtroom, and I'm going to tell a jury what he did. And I'm going to let it be ugly, because I am not going to be a woman who let a man do that to her and then did nothing. Okay? I need your help. You have it. I need you to get him out of Tennessee. I need you to get him back to Atlanta. I need him to turn himself in to the police because I don't want him dragged in cuffs. I want him to come in on his own feet because I want him on record having done that. I want a jury to know that this is a man who chose to come in. I want a jury to see a man who ran out of excuses. Can you do that? Yes. You can make him do that. Yes, Lena. Okay. When? Next week. Okay. She exhaled. She had not realized how much of her body had been holding that decision. It came out of her in a long, slow release, and she sank a little into the couch, and Nikolai watched her do it, and he said carefully, Lena, yes. I am proud of you. She looked at him. No one had said that to her in a long time. Her mother had said it in Spanish the first week, over the phone, and her sister had said it, and Marisol had said it, but it had been a long time since a man had said it, and it had been even longer since a man had said it, and she had believed him. She believed him. She did not know what to do with that. Nikolai. Yes. I want to kiss you. He went still. I have wanted to kiss you for about 3 weeks. I have not, because I did not trust myself to know whether I wanted to kiss you or whether I wanted to kiss the man who had been kind to me. And I thought about it a lot, and I have decided that it is both. And I have decided that I do not care that it is both. And I am telling you now, because if I do not tell you now, I am going to go to bed and lie awake and hate myself for another night, and I am tired of lying awake. He did not move. He said, very carefully, Lena, you have been through... Don't do that. Don't. I know what I've been through. I know what I am. I'm a grown woman who is asking you a question, and I would like you to not treat me like glass. I am not... You are. A little. And I understand why. And I love you for it. I do, Nikolai. I love you for it. But I am not glass, and I have not been glass for 3 weeks. And you can say yes or you can say no, but do not tell me what I am able to decide. He looked at her for a very long moment. Then he got up. He walked around the coffee table. He sat down on the couch next to her, not touching. The space between them may be 6 inches, and he said softly, Ask me again. What? Ask me again, out loud, so I know you mean it. Her eyes stung. Nikolai, I want to kiss you. Please. He reached up with one hand. He put his fingers very lightly along the side of her jaw, where the bruise had been, where the bruise was not anymore. And he tilted her face a 1/4 inch toward him, and he paused, and he looked at her, and he said, yes. And then he kissed her. It was not the kiss she had expected. It was not hungry. It was not sudden. It was careful, the way a man is careful with a thing he has been afraid of breaking, and it was slow, and when he pulled back a few inches to look at her, she realized her face was wet, and she did not know when she had started crying. Lena, I'm okay. I'm okay. It's okay. It's okay. Are you sure? Yes. You are crying. I know. It's not a bad crying. It's, Nikolai, it's, what? It's that no one has kissed me in 2 years without it being about something else. He closed his eyes. He pressed his forehead to hers. He did not say anything. He did not need to say anything. He held her face very lightly in his hand, and he kept his eyes closed, and she felt him breathe. In, out, and she realized in the dark behind her own eyelids that she was breathing with him, matching him, and it was the first time in her entire life that she had breathed with another person without being afraid. They stayed like that a long time. When she finally pulled back, she said, I don't want to do anything else tonight. Is that okay? Yes, I just want to sit here. Then we sit here. With you. With me. She curled up. She put her head on his shoulder. He put his arm around her, and he did not move it, and they sat on the couch in the living room of an apartment 43 floors above a city that had become, over 2 months, something like home. And she felt the steady, slow drumbeat of his heart through the fabric of his shirt. And she thought, I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. And it was true. It was true in a way that did not depend on the locked door of a bedroom or the height of a building or the men in the hallway outside. It was true in her body. It was true in the quiet of her own chest. It was true the way weather is true. And she closed her eyes, on his shoulder, on a couch that she had come to know, in an apartment that had started, somewhere in the last 2 weeks, to feel like hers, and she let herself rest. She did not know yet that 2 weeks from now, a man in a city she had never been to would make a phone call. She did not know yet that the phone call would set in motion a series of events that would end on a cold afternoon with a van sliding alongside her outside the Pinewood Center. She did not know yet that the quiet she had, at last found, was a quiet that certain people had been, for some time, very interested in breaking. She only knew that night on his shoulder with her eyes closed that she had been, for the first time in a very long time, kissed, and that she had wanted it, and that she had asked for it, and that when she had asked, the answer had been yes. If you or someone you know is having a difficult time, free support is available. The phone call came on a Thursday in early December. It did not come to Lena. It came to a man named Grigor Volkov in a house in a suburb of Chicago at 10:22 in the morning, and the man who made it did not identify himself and did not need to. Grigor Volkov was a man who had known Nikolai Sorin for 26 years, and had at one time been something like his brother, and had for the last 9 years been something considerably less than that. The voice on the other end of the call said, in the flat-clipped syllables of their shared birth language, "The woman is at a community center in the southwest of the city. She leaves at 6. There is one driver. The driver does not stay inside the building." Grigor Volkov listened. He did not speak. He ended the call. He put the phone down on the marble counter of his kitchen next to a cup of coffee that had gone cold while he had been waiting for the call, and he looked out the window at a yard that had snow on it already, a thin crust of December snow, and he thought about a debt he had been carrying for 9 years. He made 3 more calls. By 4 o'clock that afternoon, 4 men were in a black panel van driving south on I-75 toward Atlanta. They did not make it in time to catch her on Thursday. Thursday she was at Pinewood late, because she had been on a call with the foundation in New York until almost 7, and by the time she came out of the building, the van had already pulled away, because the driver had been told that if it got too dark, he was to come back the next day. Grigor Volkov was a careful man. He had not stayed in the business for 26 years by rushing. Friday, the van was in place by 5:30. Lena came out at 6:04. She did not see the van. It was parked across the street, half a block up, the way a plumber's van might be parked. It had a logo on the side for a heating company that did not exist. She was carrying a canvas tote bag full of grant drafts she wanted to read over the weekend, and she was thinking about Nikolai, about the conversation she had decided to have with him tonight, about the question she was going to ask him over dinner. "Come with me Saturday. I want you to meet Amara. I want you to see where I work. Will you come?" And she was already halfway to smiling before she even reached the SUV. Dima was not at the SUV. Dima was at the SUV. She saw him. She saw his shape through the tinted window of the driver's side, and she raised her hand, and she was 8 feet from the door when the world happened to her. She heard the van first. A low rolling sound, the wrong sound, a van moving when it should not have been moving, and she half turned, and 2 men were already on the sidewalk, and she had time to scream exactly one word, which was Dima, and then a hand closed over her mouth from behind, and her feet came off the ground, and the canvas tote dropped, and her grant drafts scattered across the wet sidewalk, and she heard, very clearly, in the half-second before she was in the van, the sound of Dima's door opening and Dima's voice shouting something in a language that was not English, and then a crack, a specific flat crack that her body knew was a gunshot, and she did not know, as she was being thrown onto the floor of the van, whether it had been Dima's gun or theirs, or whether Dima was alive, and the door slammed, and the van accelerated, and someone put a knee in the middle of her back, and a voice said, in English, in a bad accent, be still, or we make you still." She was still. She was still for approximately 4 seconds. Then Lena Carter, who had spent 2 years learning how to make herself small and silent and agreeable, who had spent 22 months in an apartment training every instinct of self-preservation down to the size of a pin, who had discovered in the last 2 months that she had a voice and that the voice worked, did something she did not decide to do. She bit the hand on her mouth. She bit down hard enough to taste blood. She bit down hard enough to break skin. The man above her yelled and yanked his hand back and called her a word in a language she did not understand, and she drew a huge lungful of air, and she screamed, full throat, into the metal interior of the van, and she kicked, and her heel connected with something soft, and the man cursed again, and someone else in the van shouted, "Shut her up! Shut her up!" And a hand came across her face, and then another, and then a third, and somewhere in the middle of the third, her head hit the floor of the van, and the world went white and then gray and then dark at the edges. And the last thing she thought, before she went under, was a single cold, clear sentence that surprised her. I am not done. She came awake in a warehouse. This was what it was. There was no other word. It was a big, empty, rectangular room with concrete floors and high windows that had been painted over from the inside and metal staircases running up the walls to a catwalk. There was a single light on a hook, the kind workmen use, throwing a cone of hard white down onto a folding chair, which was the chair she was in. Her wrists were zip-tied to the arms of the chair. Her ankles were zip-tied to the legs. There was a piece of duct tape across her mouth that pulled when she moved her jaw. She counted 4 men. 3 of them were standing by a door at the far end of the warehouse, smoking and talking quietly in the language she did not understand. The 4th was sitting on a crate about 10 feet in front of her, in a dark coat, with his legs crossed, looking at her like a man studying a painting he did not entirely approve of. He was older than the others, maybe 60. He had gray hair cropped close to his skull and a face that had once been handsome and was now simply hard. His eyes were pale, so pale they were almost colorless, and when he saw that she was awake, he nodded, slightly, as if she had done something he had been waiting for her to do. He stood. He walked over to her. He reached out and, with surprising gentleness, peeled the duct tape off her mouth. He rolled it into a ball. He put it in his pocket. "Miss Carter," he said. His voice was quiet. His English was careful, the English of a man who had learned it at 40 instead of 4. "Who are you?" "My name is Grigor. My name does not matter very much to you. What matters to you is that I used to know Nikolai Sorin very well many years ago, and that he owes me something, and that I have decided today that I am going to collect it." "What does he owe you?" "A brother." Lena did not know what to say to that. Grigor watched her face. 9 years ago, he'd said, my brother Pyotr did something that Nikolai did not like. Nikolai had the option to be patient. He had the option to forgive. He had the option to take Pyotr's money, which Pyotr had offered, which was a great deal of money, and to call it finished. Nikolai did not choose any of those options. I'm sure you can imagine what he chose instead. I buried my brother in November of that year in a cemetery outside Minsk, next to our mother. It was a very cold day. I stood in the snow and I told myself I would wait. I told myself the moment would come. I am a patient man, Miss Carter. I have been waiting 9 years. I don't know anything about... I know you do not. That is not the point. The point is that Nikolai, who has been a very hard man to hurt for 9 years, who has been a ghost for 9 years, who keeps no family close and no friends close and no woman close, has recently developed a weakness, a specific weakness, a woman. You and I, who have been waiting 9 years, cannot believe my good fortune. He crouched down so that his face was level with hers. I am not going to hurt you more than I have to, he said. I want you to understand this. You are not the thing I want. You are the door to the thing I want. Do you understand? Yes. Good. What do you want him to do? I want him to come here, and I want him to come alone. And I want him to understand, when he arrives, what he cost me 9 years ago by losing, in one afternoon, the only thing he has allowed himself to love in 9 years. That is all. Lena looked at him. She was, at this moment, supposed to be afraid. She was afraid. But underneath the fear there was something else, a kind of slow, furious calm she had felt once before, on the floor of a bathroom, 4 minutes before a door had come down. And she recognized it now, and she let it settle in her. You don't know him, she said. I know him better than you do, Miss Carter. No, you don't. You knew him 9 years ago. He's different now. Men like Nikolai do not change. He changed for me. Grigor smiled. It was not a cruel smile. It was almost sad. That is what all the women think, he said. I am sorry for you, I am. But that is what all the women always think. He stood. He walked back to the crate. He sat down. He pulled a phone out of his coat pocket. He looked at it. He looked at her. He said, without changing his tone, Now we wait. He will call soon. He will be very angry. He will offer me things. I will enjoy that part. And then he will come because he cannot stand not to. And then we will be done. Whoosh. Nikolai Sorin was not, at that moment, angry. He was something worse than angry. He was in the back of his own car, in the parking lot of Pinewood, and Dima was in the passenger seat with a bandage on his left shoulder where a bullet had clipped him. And Yvette Booker was on the sidewalk with her arms wrapped around herself, watching the entire apparatus of a private crisis assemble in her parking lot. 2 more SUVs, 6 men, a woman with a laptop, a man on a phone speaking in clipped Russian, and Nikolai was looking at a piece of paper that had been found, folded neatly, under the windshield wiper of his car. It had 2 lines on it in block letters. Come alone. We will call with address in 1 hour. He folded the paper back along its crease. Dima. Boss. How many shots? 1. From them or from you? From them. Mine did not fire in time. I am sorry. I saw the van and I was turning and… Dima, you are shot. Stop apologizing. Yes, boss. Are they gone? Yes. Direction. South on Lee. Then I lost them. Mikhail has been on the cameras for 20 minutes. We will have a route soon. Grigor? Dima turned in his seat. What did you say? Grigor, it is Grigor. I do not know how I know, but I know. Dima's face did not move. He had served with Nikolai long enough to know the names, and he had served with him long enough to know what Grigor meant. And he had served with him long enough to know that when Nikolai said a name in that particular voice, the argument was over before it had started. Boss, if it is Grigor, she is alive, for now, because he does not want her. He wants me. He will not let her leave, boss, even if you go. I know. He will kill you both. I know, Dima. Boss? Yes. Let me come with you. Nikolai looked at him. He looked at the bandage. He looked at the gray sky. He looked at Yvette, who was still on the sidewalk, who had not gone inside, who had been, he realized, standing in the cold for 20 minutes waiting for someone to tell her anything about a woman she had grown to love in 2 months. Get Mikhail to find them, he said, and get Victor and 4 men ready. I will not go alone. I am not an idiot. But when I go in alone. Do you hear me? Yes, boss. And Dima? Yes. Tell Miss Booker something. Tell her something true. Not all of it, but something. Dima got out of the car. Nikolai sat in the back seat for a moment longer. He looked at the paper in his hand and he looked at the thin little gold chain Lena had started wearing a month ago, a chain her mother had given her for her 27th birthday, which had come off in the scuffle and which Dima had picked up off the sidewalk and handed to him, and he held the chain in his palm and he did something he had not done in a very long time. He closed his eyes. He thought of Lena at the counter on Thanksgiving with flour on her cheek. He thought of her asleep on his shoulder on the couch. He thought of her the first night in the bathroom, her face a ruin, asking him, "Who are you?" He thought, "I am going to bring her home. I am going to bring her home and I am going to ask her to marry me." And that was the moment, sitting in the back of a Mercedes in a parking lot in southwest Atlanta on a Friday night in December, that Nikolai Sorin knew the thing he had been trying for 3 months not to know. He opened his eyes. He got out of the car. He walked toward his men. In the warehouse, Lena was working. She was doing it quietly. She was doing it without moving her shoulders. She had been flexing her right wrist slowly against the zip tie in a specific pattern she had seen once, years ago, in a self-defense video at her old nonprofit that she had watched because a coworker had made her, and she had laughed at the time, and now she was not laughing. The zip tie had a little give. Not much. Enough. She was watching Grigor. She was watching the 3 men at the door. She had been a woman, for 2 years, whose job it had been to watch men. She had not lost the skill. She had, if anything, sharpened it in 2 months of not needing to use it, the way a knife sharpens in the drawer. She watched the 3 men by the door and she counted their guns. 2 had pistols in shoulder holsters. 1 had a rifle leaning against the wall next to him that he kept forgetting about. She watched Grigor, and she saw the shape of a pistol under his coat, and she saw that his phone was in his left hand, and she saw that when he looked at her face and not at her hands, because he did not believe her hands were capable of anything. Men had been making that mistake about her hands for a long time. She worked the zip tie. Grigor's phone rang at 6:41. Nikolai. Lena's breath caught. Yes. She is alive. She is in front of me. She is angry. She heard Nikolai's voice as a small buzz through the phone, too low to make out. I will send you an address in 20 minutes. Come alone. If I see a second car, I kill her and you find a building on fire. Do you understand? Another buzz. Grigor listened a long time to whatever Nikolai was saying. His face did not change. At one point he smiled, just slightly, at something and said, You did love her. I am pleased to hear this. It was worth waiting for. He hung up. He put the phone in his pocket. He looked at Lena. He is coming. I know. He loves you, Miss Carter. I know. You are going to watch him die. She looked at him. No, she said. Grigor smiled. No, he repeated, amused. You are very brave for a woman in a chair, Miss Carter. I've been in worse chairs. I believe you have. You're going to make a mistake. Am I? Yes. What mistake? She looked at him with every ounce of the calm she had found on the floor of a bathroom 3 months ago. You think I am the leverage, she said. You think I am what brings him here. But you don't understand what he has done in 3 months. You don't understand what he is now. He is not coming here because of me. He is coming here because you took me, and you are going to find out in about 20 minutes what it costs a man like him to have something taken. You think I am the door? I am not the door. I am the reason the door is coming off. Grigor looked at her. For the first time, something in his face moved. It was small. It was the smallest possible adjustment, but it was there. He turned to the men at the far door and he said something in their language, and 2 of them moved. One of them went out, and Lena closed her hand around the end of the zip tie that had, at last, worked itself almost free. Nikolai did not come alone. He never had any intention of coming alone. He came with 9 men in 3 cars to a warehouse in an industrial district east of the airport at 7:15 on a Friday night in December, while a thin cold rain started to fall, and he had them in position around the building before he walked, alone, in a charcoal suit with no coat, across the cracked asphalt to the small metal door on the north side. Victor on the roof with a rifle, 2 teams of 3 at the loading bay, one going in low on his signal, one waiting for the signal after that. Dima in the car he was not supposed to be in, with his bandaged shoulder, watching a laptop feed from the drone one of his men was flying high above the building, because Dima was going to come whether Nikolai told him to or not, and they both knew it. Nikolai stopped at the metal door. He knocked twice. The door opened. A man he did not know looked at him, looked past him, alone. Alone! The man patted him down. The man found one pistol, which Nikolai had expected to be found, and took it. The man did not find the other, which was in the small of his back, because Nikolai had been doing this long enough to know how to wear 2. He walked in. The warehouse was exactly what he had imagined it would be. He had been in 6 like it. He saw the cone of light. He saw the chair. He saw Lana in the chair, alive, alert, her eyes locked on his the second he came through the door, and he felt, in his chest, a small terrible loosening, because he had not, until this second, fully allowed himself to know whether she was going to be alive when he walked in. He saw Grigor. Grigor had aged. They had all aged. Nikolai. Grigor, I was not sure you would come. You were sure? Yes. Grigor almost smiled. I was sure. Nikolai walked farther into the room. He walked past the 2 men by the door. He walked to the cone of light. He stopped 10 feet from Lena. Are you hurt? I'm okay. Lena. I'm okay. Nikolai. I'm okay. He looked at Grigor. Let her go. No. Grigor. No, Nikolai. I did not come here to let her go. I came here to finish what you started in November 9 years ago. Pyotr was going to kill me. Pyotr was my brother. He was going to kill me, Grigor. He had already made the call. He had already given the location. He was selling me to Rostov for $700,000. I had the tape. I played it for him. He hurt himself. He cried in front of me, Grigor. He cried, and he begged, and he told me he was sorry, and I let him beg for an hour, and then I did what I had to do, because he was your brother, and I loved him, but he was going to have me killed, and there is only one thing a man does to a man who is going to have him killed. Beshi. Grigor's face did not move. You could have told me. I did tell you. I told you the next day. I did not believe you. I know you did not. I still do not. I know. They stood in the cone of light, and the two of them, for one long moment, were two men who had once eaten at the same table, who had once stood at the same christening, who had once, 26 years ago, in a room outside Minsk, sworn to each other that they were brothers, and everything that had come between them was standing in the air between them now in a shape they could both see. Nikolai said softly, Grigor, let her go. Whatever you want to do to me, do it. You have me. I am here. Let her walk out of this room. Grigor looked at him. For the smallest instant, Nikolai thought he would say yes. Then Grigor said quietly, no. And he drew the pistol from under his coat. And Lena, at that moment, in the chair, pulled her right hand free of the zip tie. What happened next happened in about 4 seconds, and Lena, for the rest of her life, would remember it in a way that made no linear sense. It came back to her in pieces. The pieces did not add up to a scene. They added up to a feeling. She ripped her other hand free. The zip tie snapped. She was already moving. She went low, out of the chair, because her ankles were still tied to the legs, and the chair came with her, and she hit the concrete on her shoulder with the chair half collapsing on top of her, and the chair leg broke, and her left ankle came free, and the other ankle was still tied, but she did not need both legs. She needed one. She needed one to push, and she pushed, and she rolled, and she hit Grigor's legs from below just as he was leveling the pistol at Nikolai, and Grigor went down. He went down hard. His head hit the concrete. The gun went off. Once. The shot went wide. It hit one of the high-painted windows, and a small square of glass fell somewhere high above them. Nikolai was already moving. Nikolai had drawn the second pistol from the small of his back before Grigor had even finished falling, and the two men at the far door were already drawing their own guns, and Nikolai shot one of them in the shoulder and one of them in the thigh without ever breaking stride, because Nikolai was a man who had done this before and did not need, in the moment it was happening, to think about it. Outside, the other shot, the one that had gone through the window, was the signal. Victor on the roof fired once. The rifle on the wall at the far door next to the third man, who had been reaching for it, jumped half a foot to the left as the third man's hand was blown away from it, and he screamed and fell, and the far loading bay door exploded inward, and there were men in the warehouse, Nikolai's men, moving in a dark pattern she did not have the capacity to track. And somewhere far away in the noise she heard Dima's voice, which was not supposed to be in the warehouse, shouting, "Down, down, down! Boss, down." And then a last shot, and then silence. Silence. Lena was still on the concrete, her ankles still tied to a broken chair leg, her cheek against the cold floor, and she was breathing very fast, and her ears were ringing, and she was aware, distantly, that she was laughing, or crying, or making some sound that was neither. And then there were hands on her, gentle hands, and Nikolai was on his knees on the concrete, and he was cutting the zip tie off her ankle with a small folding knife, and his hand was shaking, which she had never seen before, and he was saying her name, over and over, very quietly. Lena, Lena, Lena. I'm okay. Lena. Nikolai. I'm okay. I'm okay. He pulled her up against him. He put one hand on the back of her head and one arm around her back, and he held her so hard she could not breathe, and she pressed her face into the side of his neck, and she smelled the smell she had come to know, his aftershave, and the clean, warm smell of him, and she thought, with a small, strange, surprised pride that would stay with her for the rest of her life, I got him. I got myself out of the chair, and I got him. Grigor was on the ground 10 feet away. He was alive. He was being rolled onto his stomach by Dima. Dima was saying something to him she could not hear over the ringing in her ears. The two men by the door who had been shot were on the ground. Victor was coming through the loading bay. Someone was on a phone. I need to stand up, Lena said, into Nikolai's neck. I need to stand up. I need you to let me stand up. He let her go. Slowly. He stood. He offered her his hand. She took it. She stood. Her left ankle folded a little. He caught her. She straightened. She looked at him. You came. Of course I came. I was going to tell you tonight. I was going to... Tell me what? She laughed. She was crying. She did not know why she was laughing. I was going to invite you to meet Amara. He made a sound, half a laugh, half something that was not a laugh. Lena, I was going to invite you to the community center tomorrow. That was the big plan. That was what I was going to ask. I was thinking about it when they grabbed me. You can still invite me. I'm inviting you. I accept. She reached up with her shaking hand and she put her palm against the side of his face, and he closed his eyes and he leaned into her hand and she said softly, so that only he could hear, Nikolai. Yes. I am not glass. I know. I have never been glass. I know. I want you to remember that. I will remember. She put her forehead against his. Across the warehouse, Grigor Volkov, on the concrete, was looking at the two of them with an expression that might have been recognition. They got home at 1 a.m. She would not go to a hospital. She had a scraped cheek and a bruised shoulder and a cut on her hand where the zip tie had broken, and she had let a Dr. Nikolai called look at all of it in the apartment, in the kitchen, with a mug of tea on the counter next to her, and the doctor had said, "You are very lucky, Miss Carter. Nothing is broken." And she had said, "I know," because she did know. She knew now, better than she had ever known, what luck meant and what it did not. Elena was there. She had come in at midnight when Dima had called her. She stood in the kitchen with her hands pressed to her mouth, and she did not move until Lena had crossed the room and put her arms around her, and the old woman had held her and rocked her, just a little, the way a mother rocks a child. And Lena had thought, I am so tired. I am so tired. I am going to sleep for a week. Rosa arrived at 1:30. She had been in the car for 40 minutes. Nikolai had called her himself. She came into the apartment and she did not speak. She walked straight to her daughter and she put her hands on Lena's face and she looked at every inch of her, slowly, thoroughly, and she said finally in Spanish, "You are whole." "I am whole, Mama. I told you I was going to kill him." "Mama, he is alive." "The first one." "Mama." Rosa looked at Nikolai across the kitchen. He was standing by the window in a shirt that had blood on one sleeve. He had not changed. He had not sat down. He had not let anyone clean it. Rosa said, in English, "Sit down, Nikolai." He looked at her. "Sit." He sat. Rosa walked across the kitchen. She stood in front of him. She said quietly, "You did what you had to do." "Yes, ma'am." "Do not do it again." "Ma'am?" "Do not ever again put her in a room where she has to get out of it alone. You hear me?" He looked up at her. "Yes, ma'am." "Good." Rosa put her hand, briefly, on top of his head, the way a mother puts her hand on a son's head. "Now, someone make me a coffee. I am not going home." Asang. The trial, when it came, was not the trial they had planned. In the end, Derek Malone pleaded guilty. He pleaded guilty on the advice of a very expensive lawyer his family had hired after his mother had, at a certain point, cut him off. And he pleaded guilty because his lawyer had looked at the evidence that had somehow, mysteriously, been assembled by an investigator for the prosecution and had told him, bluntly, that he was not going to win and that the only question was how long he went away for. He went away for 6 years. He stood in a courtroom in February and he said the words. And Lena sat in the front row with her mother and her sister and Marisol. And she did not cry. And she did not look away. And when they let him out, she watched him go. And she thought, "You are a smaller man than I remember. You were always a smaller man. I just could not see it." She did not see Grigor again. She did not ask what had happened to Grigor. Nikolai had told her once, in March, "He is alive. He is in a country neither of us will ever visit. It is finished." She had nodded. She had not asked for more. She had decided, at some point in the months between December and March, that there were some things she was content to let live in her husband's life without her. Husband. She had started using the word in her head in April. They were married in a church in May. They were married in a small one, not a grand one, because Lena had said no to a grand one, and Nikolai had said whatever you want and had meant it, and it was a church in Decatur where Rosa had taken her as a child, with 23 people in the pews and a priest who had known her since she was 7. Her sister stood next to her. Dima stood next to Nikolai. Yvette cried through the entire ceremony. Amara, who was now 8, walked the ring up the aisle on a pillow and then refused to give it up until she had been allowed to hold it for 30 more seconds, which she negotiated with admirable firmness. Lena walked down the aisle on her mother's arm. There had been no father to walk her. There had been no question of a substitute. Rosa had worn a dress the color of champagne and had cried only twice, both times silently, and had handed her daughter off to a man she had spent 8 months coming to love, and had said softly before she stepped away, in Spanish, "Nikolai, you take care of her." "Yes, mother." It was the first time he had ever called Rosa mother. Rosa did not cry at that part. She did not cry. She walked to her pew and she sat down and she did not cry. She cried in the car on the way home. Seek. 2 years passed the way good years pass, which is quickly. The Pinewood Center doubled in size. It opened a second location on the east side of town. Lena was not the grant writer anymore. Lena ran a program now called Safe Harbor, which was a program for women who were where she had been, and it provided emergency housing for 48 families in its first year. The foundation that funded it was the same foundation, quietly, that had always funded Pinewood. Nobody asked Lena to run Safe Harbor. Lena had asked to run it. She had gone to Yvette on a Tuesday in the summer and had said, "I know what I am supposed to do now." Yvette had said, "I have been waiting on you to figure it out, baby." Nikolai, over the course of those 2 years, did something harder than any single thing he had done in his previous life. He began slowly, carefully, piece by piece, to become the kind of man his wife had decided to marry. He did not do it cleanly. He did not do it perfectly. He did not become a saint. He did not pretend to become a saint. He sold off 3 of the things he owned that he did not want her to know he had owned. He stopped doing 2 of the things he had done every week for 20 years. He kept doing 1 or 2 of the others, because some things a man does not fully put down, and Lena knew that, and Lena had married him knowing that. And Lena had made her peace with the fact that the man she loved had been, and still partly was, a man she would not have chosen at 22. She had also decided at 29 that the woman she had been at 22 had not yet been qualified to choose. Elena retired at 68 on a pension that would have embarrassed a small country. She moved to a house on the water in South Carolina. Lena visited every 3 months. Dima got married at last, at 45, to a woman who worked at a bakery near his apartment. He cried at his own wedding. Nikolai gave a speech. Lena had never seen Nikolai give a speech. Nikolai was not good at speeches. But he tried, and he looked at Dima at the end, and he said quietly, "You have been a better brother to me than the brother I was born with. I love you, Dima." Dima had stood up from the table and had walked across the room and had put his arms around Nikolai, and the two of them had held each other, the giant and the lean man, and the room had applauded, and Lena had pressed a napkin to her eyes and had thought, "This is a life. This is what a life is." Nikolai's sister came to visit in the summer of the second year. She came with her husband and her 2 children. She had written, in April, a single letter. The letter had said, "I have been reading about a woman named Lena Carter, who runs a program in Atlanta for women who have been where our mother was. She is married to a man with your last name. I would like to come see her. I would like to come see you if you will have us." Nikolai had sat at the kitchen counter for an hour holding the letter. Lena had sat with him. He had not cried. He had not been able to. But he had reached for her hand and he had held it. And he had said, after an hour, "I do not know how to answer this letter." And Lena had said, "Then I will answer it for you, and you will sign it." She had written the letter. It had said, "Dear Katya, we would love to have you. Come whenever you can. There is a room for all of you. There is a park near the apartment with a pond, and my husband's driver has a daughter your older boy's age, and we will meet you at the airport. Love, Lena." Nikolai had signed it. He had signed his full name. He had hesitated, and then he had added underneath, in the old language, Solnishko. Katya had come in July. She had stayed 9 days. She had hugged her brother on the last day for a long time at the airport, and when she let him go, she had said, in front of everyone, in front of her husband and her children and Lena and Dima, "You are not the same person." No. Mama would have liked her. I think so. Do not lose her. I will not, Katya. Do not lose me again either. No. He had held his nephews. He had shaken his brother-in-law's hand. He had watched them walk through security, and Katya had turned at the last minute, and she had waved, and he had lifted one hand, and then they were gone, and he had stood at the glass for a long time and had watched the plane eventually pull back from the gate. In the car, going home, he had said to Lena quietly, "I would like to call her on Sunday." "Okay." "I would like to call her every Sunday." "Okay, Nikolai." He had looked out the window. "I did not know," he said, "that it was possible to have this." "I know." "I did not know, in the morning you drank Elena's oatmeal, that it was possible to have any of this." "I know." "Lena." "Yes." "Thank you." She had reached across the seat, and she had put her hand on his. She had not said anything. She had not needed to. Dating. There is a thing she says now when she speaks at fundraisers, because she speaks at fundraisers now, which is something she would have laughed at anyone for predicting 3 years ago. She says it at the end, always. She does not plan it. It comes out the same way every time, because it is the one thing she means without any of the words around it. She says, 3 years ago I was on the floor of a bathroom with a phone in my hand, and I texted the wrong number. It was the best mistake of my life. But it was a mistake. It was not a miracle, and it was not a plan, and it was not a reward for being good. It was luck. It was one specific piece of luck, and the woman I was that night did not deserve it more than any other woman on any other bathroom floor on that same night in this city. The luck is not the lesson. Do you understand me? The luck is not the lesson. If you're in that bathroom tonight, you do not wait for the wrong number. You do not hope for a stranger. You pick up the right number and you call the right people and you tell them where you are. And if they do not come, you call someone else, and you call someone else, and you call someone else, because you are not a woman who can afford to wait for a coincidence. You are a woman who walks out of that bathroom on your own 2 feet, with someone answering the phone who is supposed to answer it. And if you do not know who that is, you come to my office on Monday and I will be the one who answers. That is all I will ever ask of any of you. That is why I am here. That is why Safe Harbor is here. That is what the room is for. She says that. And then she sits down. And the room always applauds. And she never hears it because she is always, at that moment, looking at a man in the back row who is looking at her. And the look between them is the same look every time, which is the look of 2 people who have built, out of a mistake and a warehouse, and a lot of late nights, and some arguments neither of them tells anyone about, something neither of them thought they deserved. On the drive home that night, in the fall of the 3rd year, with the lights of the city going past the window and her husband's hand on the back of her neck, because he did that now, absently, without thinking about it, Lena said, "Nikolai?" "Yes." "I want to ask you something." "Yes." "Do you think we would have found each other anyway?" He was quiet a long time. "No," he said. "No?" "No, Lena, I do not think we would have." "Then, but I think," he said slowly, "that we would have spent our lives the poorer for not having. And I am grateful for the mistake. I am grateful every day of my life for the mistake. I am not a man who thanks a bathroom floor, but I am grateful for whatever made you type the wrong number. Because of all the things I have done in my life, Lena, and all the things I have built, and all the things I have put my name to, the best thing I have ever done is answer my phone that night." She was quiet. She put her head on his shoulder. She had started doing that in year 1. It had by year 3 become the way she sat in any car he was in. "Nikolai." "Yes." "Let's go home." "Okay." "And tomorrow I want to go to the park." "Okay." "With the ducks." "Okay." "And nothing else, no meetings, nothing, just the ducks." "Okay, Lena." He drove. She closed her eyes. The city, outside the window, glittered the way cities do in late fall, when the air has just turned cold and the lights have just come on. And somewhere, in an apartment she had never been in, a woman she would never meet was sitting on a bathroom floor with her phone in her hand, deciding. And somewhere else, a phone on a marble counter would ring, and a man who had never met that woman would decide in turn what kind of man he was going to be on a Tuesday night. Lena did not know any of that. She could not. No one ever does. She only knew, in the car, with her husband's hand on the back of her neck and her mother's chain around her throat, and the small, steady drumbeat of a life she had built with both hands, that the woman she had been on the bathroom floor 3 years ago had done one true thing that night. She had not given up. She had reached. And the reach, in the end, was the thing. Not the number, not the stranger, not the luck. The reach. That was the lesson she carried. That was the lesson she would carry every day for the rest of her life, into every room she walked into, and every woman she sat across from, and every child she knelt beside at the Pinewood Center, and every quiet evening on a couch in an apartment that had become, over time, the safest place she had ever lived. Reach. Even from the floor. Even with shaking hands. Even to the wrong number. Reach. And when a hand comes back, in the dark, to meet your own, take it. Take it. And do not, for any reason, let it go.